tu devrais avoir quelque chose. Bonjour, bonjour à tous, bienvenue ici à ce Mondial de l'auto. Merci d'être aussi nombreux pour ce cycle de conférences où on va parler du futur de l'automobile. Alors cet après-midi, on va beaucoup parler de la tech justement. On va voir comment l'IA, la tech, la digitalisation influencent toute la chaîne automobile, depuis finalement la conception en passant par l'industrialisation jusqu'à la distribution. Alors, je suis très heureuse d'être parmi vous cet après-midi pour animer cette séquence de conférences. Je suis journaliste sur LCI et je m'appelle Isabelle Gounin-Lévy. Voilà. Alors, vous pourrez participer aussi, bien sûr, poser toutes vos questions cet après-midi. Et tout de suite, pour démarrer, je vous demande d'accueillir chaleureusement Steve Marvin. Merci de l'applaudir. Steve, je vais vous présenter. Donc, vous êtes aujourd'hui le directeur recherche et développement de la PFA, la plateforme automobile et mobilité. Et vous allez nous parler justement des grands enjeux de la filière automobile. Alors, la PFA, cette plateforme automobile et mobilité, je vous le rappelle, vous le savez, mais je vous le rappelle quand même, c'est la structure aujourd'hui de dialogue justement entre l'industrie automobile française, les constructeurs, les fournisseurs et les pouvoirs publics. Et elle est présidée par l'ancien ministre de l'Industrie, Luc Châtel. Alors, c'est vrai que la France, aujourd'hui, on a beaucoup d'atouts, on a un mix énergétique important, favorablement décarboné, on a une main-d'œuvre qualifiée, mais quand même, à partir de tout ça, on aimerait entendre de votre part votre vision du marché, qui est quand même un peu secouée en ce moment.
C'est vrai que le marché est un peu secoué en ce moment. Aujourd'hui, depuis la fin de la crise Covid en 2020-2021, on a subi un marché qui est autour de 20% plus petit. Ça, au niveau de l'Europe, et la France n'est pas écartée par ça. Également, juste pour illustrer, actuellement, au mois de septembre, on a eu le pire mois de septembre depuis 20 ans. Donc c'est clair qu'aujourd'hui, on a un marché qu'après la crise des semi-conducteurs.
À cause de la crise sanitaire, à cause de la crise de Covid, bien sûr, on s'en rappelle.
Où on a eu une boost un petit peu sur le marché qui a bénéficié un petit peu les ventes pendant un moment parce qu'il y avait une pénurie de voitures. Maintenant, on commence à voir dans les commandes que ce n'est pas tout à fait la même chose. Maintenant, une fois qu'on a dit ça, on a un marché qui est en train de se transformer. On a également une offre qui est en train de se transformer. Et on voit bien à ce salon-là, on a une offre de voitures moins chères, voitures électriques moins chères. On a notamment le lancement de la R5 de Renault. On a le lancement commercial de la R5, le lancement mondial de la R4. Et on a également le EC3 qui arrive dans les concessionnaires maintenant. Donc maintenant, on commence à avoir une offre de véhicules électriques qui est autour de 20-25 000 euros. Et on considère que ça va, on espère, donner un boost à l'industrie.
Oui, effectivement, il faut aller vers l'électrique. C'est vraiment notre destination. Ça, vous en êtes convaincu aujourd'hui ?
Absolument, absolument. La filière automobile est complètement convaincue sur la destination. La destination de 100% véhicules zéro émission, je précise, pas tout à fait nécessairement purement électrique, mais également il y a d'autres solutions comme le pile à combustible qui pourrait répondre à ces besoins en 2035. Donc on est convaincu que c'est la destination. Maintenant, il y a quelques interpellations sur la vitesse à laquelle ça peut être fait.
C'est ça. En ce moment, on va dire que ça ne va pas très vite quand même. Même si les ventes, elles se tassent. Ça progresse encore, mais ça se tasse quand même.
Je pense qu'on a passé la période maintenant où ce qu'on appelle en anglais les early adopters, où les passionnés de la technologie qui étaient enthousiastes pour prendre les véhicules électriques et qui voulaient vraiment le dernier cri de la technologie, leurs besoins ont été satisfaits. Donc maintenant, ça reste à l'industrie, à toute l'industrie, toute la filière maintenant, de convaincre les gens qui sont drivés pour des besoins plus rationnels et également les rassurer.
Et c'est réaliste vraiment d'aller vers cette, on va dire, électrification. Pour vous, ça va vraiment se faire parce qu'on a aussi la fin du thermique, la vente des voitures neuves thermiques qui s'approche quand même maintenant, 2035. C'est rapide quand même pour toute l'industrie automobile.
C'est très rapide, mais je pense qu'on a conscience dans l'industrie automobile que si on veut traiter les émissions du transport routier, on n'a pas le choix. On commence à voir de plus en plus d'événements exceptionnels, d'événements météorologiques exceptionnels. Je pense qu'on est tous conscients, quasiment il n'y a pas de doute maintenant qu'on a besoin de traiter ces émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Et la façon la plus efficace de le traiter, c'est par l'électrification. À part ça, également, il faut compter un petit peu les investissements que les entreprises ont fait. Et je pense qu'il n'y a aucun constructeur ou équipementier qui veut gérer pendant éternellement une double offre entre un véhicule thermique et un véhicule électrique. À un moment donné, il faut qu'on bascule.
Alors, il y a quand même aussi le gouvernement qui avait fortement incité avec les aides pour la voiture électrique. Et tout ça, c'est en train de changer. Donc, est-ce que ça ne risque pas justement de continuer à provoquer cette décélération des ventes?
Ouais, nous à la PFA, on soutient massivement les bonus qui ont été payés pour les véhicules électriques. On soutient également le leasing social qui a été mis en place par le gouvernement. Moi, je ne sais pas si combien de personnes ici dans la salle étaient au summit ce matin, mais j'avais entendu le ministre dire qu'il voulait maintenir les bonus pour les véhicules électriques. Bon, je sais que le plan de finances 2025 n'est pas signé, mais on espère que ça va rester parti. Parce que pour nous, ce qu'on constate à la PFA dans le marché européen, c'est que les pays qui suppriment les subventions pour les véhicules électriques, ils voient ensuite leur part de marché descendre fortement. Donc,
ça a été le cas pour l'Allemagne, par exemple.
C'est l'exemple type, parce que c'est le plus grand marché de l'Europe. Donc, quand on a l'Allemagne qui a une baisse de mix, ensuite, ça se voit dans le mix de l'Europe.
Il faut en fait, on va dire aujourd'hui, convaincre vraiment, vous avez dit les early adopters, ils sont venus, il faut convaincre les autres. Donc il y a effectivement le prix, vous en avez parlé, donc le prix des voitures est en train de baisser. C'est vrai qu'il reste élevé quand même, ça reste on va dire un frein, et peut-être qu'il faut expliquer davantage que finalement ce prix élevé, eh bien, c'est aussi parce qu'après justement l'utilisation est moins élevée, quoi, coûtera moins cher.
Oui, je pense qu'il y a très peu de gens maintenant qui achètent une voiture cash. Donc ensuite, il faut regarder le coût mensuel en termes de location, parce qu'en général, les acheteurs particuliers et même les entreprises, ils achètent sur un système de leasing. Et ensuite, il faut prendre en compte également le coût de l'entretien, le coût de recharge. Donc quand on fait une calcul TCO, on n'a pas besoin d'avoir une bac plus 5 en maths pour comprendre que c'est quand même ça devient intéressant assez rapidement. Parce que l'entretien sur un véhicule électrique, même les plaquettes de frein ne se remplacent pas aussi souvent, parce qu'on a le freinage régénératif. Donc il n'y a pas de vidange, il y a plein de choses qu'on passe et on n'a pas d'organes majeurs qui tombent en panne.
Il faut aussi peut-être aussi expliquer davantage que la voiture électrique est propre, parce qu'il y a peut-être certaines voix qui disent que c'est pas forcément autant le cas que ça. Enfin, il y a encore de la pédagogie à faire.
Il y a encore de la pédagogie et c'est pour ça qu'on passe pas mal de temps à faire la promotion. Ici, on a la fabrique de l'électrique, qui est l'exposition dans la hall 5.1. Et nous, notre mission à la PFA, on considère que c'est d'éduquer un petit peu qu'est-ce que c'est, quels sont les composants dans un véhicule électrique, comment ils sont fabriqués. Et juste pour prendre un exemple, on a fait une étude sur une analyse cycle de vie. Donc l'analyse cycle de vie, c'est le bilan environnemental d'un produit ou du service ou d'une activité totale du berceau à la tombe. Et nous, on a fait sur l'ACV qu'on a fait sur la base de 15 ans de vie, 225 000 km d'utilisation sur un véhicule thermique. À l'horizon 2030, on estime, avec un peu de progrès sur la consommation de carburant, on estime qu'on est à 47 tonnes de CO2 équivalent émis, tandis que sur un véhicule électrique, on est à 80% de moins. Et ça, c'est assez flagrant sur l'écart d'émissions d'impact environnemental sur le véhicule.
Alors on a aussi un autre problème peut-être avec la voiture électrique, c'est la concurrence, et la concurrence notamment de la Chine, aujourd'hui qui est très agressive. On les voit arriver avec des prix assez intéressants, avec des modèles où ils annoncent des autonomies énormes. J'ai entendu jusqu'à 1000 km, donc ça paraît beaucoup. Comment faire justement par rapport à ça pour que la filière reste, elle, compétitive?
Oui, je pense que 1000 km serait une range extender, donc il y a un petit peu de contribution de carburant fossile. Donc c'est certainement chez BYD que ça a été annoncé.
C'est ça, oui.
Mais comment faire de la concurrence? Les avantages qu'a la Chine, c'est qu'à partir de 2010, ils ont commencé à développer vraiment sérieusement les véhicules électriques. Et c'était parti d'un point de vue d'autonomie stratégique. Donc, ils ne voulaient pas être dépendants des carburants importés. Mais ça leur a donné vraiment un avantage. Quand on couple ça également avec leur expérience sur les batteries, ça les donne un gros avantage. Maintenant, ce qu'il faut qu'on fasse en Europe, c'est apprendre de l'approche des Chinois. Qu'est-ce qui a marché là-bas? Et ensuite, essayer de l'appliquer ici. Et également, on a quelques entreprises comme Stellantis qui investissent dans Leapmotor, donc qui ont une participation dans une entreprise chinoise avec un objectif affiché d'apprendre de comment travailler comme les Chinois. Mais une chose qui est très importante et malheureusement pas très très commode, c'est qu'en termes de compétitivité en France, en termes de coût de l'emploi et également coût de l'énergie, on a des handicaps assez conséquents.
Alors, pour continuer sur la Chine, on essaye quand même de les empêcher un peu de venir en Europe avec justement les taxes sur l'importation de voitures chinoises, mais malgré tout, ils viennent fabriquer du coup directement en Europe. Donc, ils contournent un peu la situation aujourd'hui.
Oui, c'est le risque. Hein. C'est toujours été l'histoire de l'automobile. Et comme ça, hein, quand on a fait la même chose sur les tarifs sur les Japonais dans les années 80, ils sont installés en Grande-Bretagne. Et ensuite en France. Mais en même temps, je pense que si on demande qu'ils s'installent en Europe, ensuite, il faut que ça soit associé avec une localisation importante des pièces intégrées dans le véhicule. Ensuite, c'est une situation très difficile à gérer. Hein.
Pour revenir à notre cycle de conférences cet après-midi, on va beaucoup parler, on l'a dit, de la tech, de l'IA, de la digitalisation, également justement du nouveau SDV, hein, donc ce véhicule de demain, ce véhicule conçu autour du logiciel. Ça va vraiment être une révolution d'après vous?
Absolument, absolument. Le véhicule, le Software Defined Vehicle, le SDV, c'est absolument l'avenir de l'automobile. Hein.
Alors expliquez-nous pourquoi justement.
Pourquoi? C'est parce que on a des véhicules de plus en plus complexes. Bon, je suis conscient qu'il y a des experts dans la salle, donc je suis un peu...
Beaucoup, je crois. Hein,
j'ai beaucoup d'experts dans la salle, donc j'ai peur de ne pas expliquer très bien. Mais ce qui est important, c'est d'avoir un véhicule qui a la capacité à la fois de gérer des systèmes de plus en plus complexes avec un système informatique embarqué qui est de plus en plus centralisé. Et également, c'est la possibilité de faire des mises à jour du véhicule tout au long de sa vie. Donc, on a vu la réussite de Tesla avec cette approche. C'est clair que si on veut rester dans la course, on est obligé de faire la même chose.
Alors justement, il faudrait qu'on ait une vraie stratégie industrielle, on va dire, au niveau de l'Europe. Il faudrait qu'on ait une automobile plus durable, plus circulaire, avec la décarbonation, de la réutilisation de matériaux. On a vraiment beaucoup de chantiers aujourd'hui à mettre en place.
Oui, c'est absolument un moment passionnant pour être impliqué dans l'automobile, parce qu'on a beaucoup de chantiers et beaucoup de chantiers qui touchent d'autres métiers. On n'est pas dans la mécanique pure qu'on a connue depuis 120 ans maintenant. Donc je pense qu'honnêtement, je suis très encouragé par l'intérêt des jeunes aujourd'hui d'entrer dans le monde de l'automobile parce qu'ils comprennent maintenant que c'est quelque chose qui donne une perspective sur plein de différents thèmes. On peut être passionné par l'environnement et travailler dans l'automobile. Si on avait dit ça il y a 20 ans, je pense que les gens auraient fait les gros yeux.
Oui, c'est vrai que maintenant, ça change complètement, effectivement.
Et également pour l'électronique, c'est quelque chose qui est assez fondamental maintenant d'avoir des compétences dans l'automobile. On est en train à la PFA, on fait une promotion de tout ce qui est l'attractivité du métier de l'automobile. Et il y aura une stand spécifique et des animations spécifiques dans le hall cette semaine.
Avant de passer aux questions, dans quelques instants, peut-être un mot sur le programme justement de toutes ces conférences qui vont se tenir là pendant les 2 jours qui viennent, cet après-midi et toute la journée de demain. On va parler bien sûr, on l'a dit cet après-midi, beaucoup de tech, IA, recyclage, parcours client, également flotte, véhicule électrique. Enfin, il y a beaucoup de thèmes. Est-ce que vous pouvez peut-être nous faire un peu un rappel, nous dire qu'est-ce qui vous paraît aujourd'hui important?
Ouais, ce qui me semble important aujourd'hui, c'est à la fois l'implication, le croisement entre le tech et l'automobile. C'est 2 mondes qui se rencontrent et que si la France veut rester dans le jeu, on est obligé d'être vraiment à la pointe sur ces questions-là. Tout ce qui est économie circulaire, c'est d'avoir de moins en moins d'impact sur l'environnement avec la fabrication et l'utilisation de nos véhicules. Et c'est également, je pense que c'est fondamentalement, j'espère que ce cycle de conférences, et j'en suis convaincu, va être passionnant et va encourager les gens à prendre plus d'intérêt dans le monde de l'automobile. Donc j'espère que ça ne va pas être une conférence uniquement entre nous, entre des acteurs de l'automobile, mais également pour les gens qui sont des visiteurs du salon.
Alors, est-ce que vous avez des questions? C'est le moment. Je sais que la première question est toujours un peu difficile. Non, pas forcément de questions pour Steve. Bon, vous avez dû... peut-être une question. Alors, attendez, on va vous passer un micro. Attendez, je vous l'apporte. Merci.
Bonjour, moi j'avais une question sur le développement des infrastructures pour favoriser le développement du véhicule électrique. Comment est-ce qu'on peut faire pour accélérer ce cycle-là, à tous les niveaux en France?
C'est une très bonne question parce que pour longtemps, ça restait vraiment un point dur, je pense. Moi, je constate en tant qu'utilisateur de véhicules électriques maintenant qu'on est passé à la vitesse supérieure avec le déploiement des infrastructures de recharge sur les autoroutes. Donc maintenant, c'est plus le cas qu'on a besoin de quitter l'autoroute pour chercher une borne pour recharger la voiture, parce que maintenant, on a beaucoup moins. Il faut savoir qu'on est arrivé à 147 000 bornes de recharge publiques en France maintenant. Il y a 5 ans, on avait, je pense, autour de 10 000 ou quelque chose comme ça. Donc,
et l'objectif, c'est combien, l'objectif?
L'objectif, c'est 400 000 en 2027, je crois. Je mesure mes mots, parce que 400 000 peut-être en 2030. Donc, c'est l'objectif. Mais je pense que c'est une situation qui s'améliore. Ce n'est pas parfait. Et je pense que je suis plutôt conscient, les gens qui ont la possibilité de recharger à la maison, la vie est extrêmement simple. C'est encore plus simple qu'avoir une voiture thermique, parce qu'on n'a jamais besoin de passer par les stations-service. Ensuite, où ça pose toujours problème, c'est les gens qui habitent en colocation. C'est avoir des bornes installées dans les parkings partagés, où on a besoin d'avoir des accords techniques et tout ça.
Dans les copropriétés, oui.
Les copropriétés, c'est absolument c'est le problème fondamental. Ensuite, c'est clair qu'aujourd'hui, c'est un petit peu, j'ai vu ce matin Patrick Pouyanné parler de ça dans son keynote au Summit. Il a dit que pour l'instant, ça ne gagne pas d'argent, ces bornes qu'ils installent sur l'autoroute, mais il considère que c'est une question de poule et l'œuf. Donc en fait, s'il n'y a pas de borne, ensuite, il n'y a pas de voiture électrique. Donc c'est un petit peu la question fondamentale, c'est comment construire les business cases. Et je pense que ça va dépendre d'une bonne injection de soutien des municipalités pour avoir les installations nécessaires.
Oui, on aura d'ailleurs une conférence consacrée à ce thème-là demain, donc on en parlera largement.
Super.
Une autre question? Voilà, peut-être monsieur, non? Je me souviens avoir vu une main se lever. Non? Voilà. Allez-y.
Bonjour Steve. Une question sur l'intelligence artificielle. Donc l'AI, je pense qu'on va en parler pendant 1 jour et demi ici. On parlait ce matin de contrats de filière, de comment est-ce que vous accompagnez les constructeurs, les suppliers dans les défis de demain. L'AI, c'est un défi de demain. Comment est-ce qu'on se l'approprie, comment est-ce qu'on construit les technologies qui vont permettre de garantir une souveraineté et une pérennité pour nos constructeurs et pour nos suppliers en Europe. Quelle place a l'intelligence artificielle dans le contrat de filière d'aujourd'hui ou dans celui de demain que vous allez pousser? Et comment est-ce que vous allez accompagner toute la filière dans cette transformation vers une industrie AI first?
Donc nous, on est contraint par les lois, hein, essentiellement, pour rester dans la zone de pré-compétitive. Et donc, l'intelligence artificielle, aujourd'hui, c'est en partie, ça fait partie des avantages compétitifs que certaines entreprises considèrent qui sont nécessaires pour leur survie. C'est clair que l'AI, c'est fondamental pour l'automobile comme pour quasiment une bonne partie de nos activités sur Terre. Donc, ce qui est les applications, que c'est assez intéressant, je pense, d'évoquer sur l'AI qu'on peut évoquer, c'est sur tout ce qui est conception. On peut faire énormément de choses en utilisant de l'AI pour converger plus rapidement sur des solutions. Sur les validations, notamment sur tout ce qui est conduite autonome ou conduite automatisée, on peut faire beaucoup de validations en situation virtuelle en utilisant d'intelligence artificielle. C'est clair qu'il y a énormément d'applications dans le monde du manufacturing aujourd'hui, du supply chain. Il y a toute une tas d'applications. J'imagine que Romain va en parler.
On va en parler dans quelques instants,
dans
justement.
Quelques instants.
Voilà, c'est la prochaine table ronde. Ouais.
Ce que nous faisons en respectant le domaine de pré-compétitif, c'est qu'on a construit un groupe de travail sur tout ce qui est réglementation sur l'AI. Parce qu'une des choses où on a un grand apport, je pense, pour la filière automobile, c'est de mesurer un petit peu l'impact des nouvelles réglementations qui arrivent et également essayer de construire soit avec les autorités à Bruxelles ou les autorités nationales, comment appliquer réglementation de manière intelligente pour que ça ne va pas en face de nos autres contraintes et nos autres objectifs.
Merci beaucoup, merci Steve Marvin, on peut l'applaudir. Thank you. Je sais qu'il y avait encore des questions, mais il faut que je tienne les timings, mais donc vous aurez à nouveau la parole tout à l'heure. On va justement parler maintenant d'IA. Let's talk about building smarter cars in a smarter way of software and AI have the power to change the automotive industry. That's our subject today. And let me introduce our expert, Steve Basra. Please, if you can come. Head of Automotive Solution, Google Cloud. Romain Brugnot is with us, Industrial Vice President for the Valeo Group. Henri Bzé, Chief Software Officer of Ampere. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sitting. So we're starting with you, Roman. You have a lot of factories around the world, and your goal is to produce with more quality and less energy and improve your performance with AI. So what's the challenge for you to transform manufacturing? What's the change? What change in factories? And I think you are going to tell us how does the AI support this change.
Thank you. Yes, at Valeo we are more than 150 factories in the world. So when we saw AI coming and very fast, for us we said, okay, this is a great opportunity on different topics. I would say that this fantastic period, we couldn't even not imagine that 10 years ago. For instance, now we are able to predict when a machine will have a breakdown. We are able to drastically improve the quality in the productions. We are even able to reduce the energy consumption of machines. You say that, okay, how to build smarter cars in a smarter way. I would say also how to build cleaner cars in a cleaner way. And the improvement for the energy consumption is massive. So now that we know what we would like to do, the reality is how can we do to start this type of AI deployment. And we had the chance at Valeo to start with some specialists of AI, because AI is known for 10 years at Valeo. We have hundreds of AI experts in the R&D department, because we have AI for sensors, for camera, for lidars, for instance. And the first things to do was to transfer from the product to the process the knowledge about AI. So we started like that in industrial.
Yes, and you need talents, so you began some external collaboration with universities, such as Telecom Paris.
Yeah, for sure. Because in fact, even if we were strongly supported by the R&D colleagues, we needed to get and to learn. And for that, it was better to build a real ecosystem to support the industrial topics. So we built connection with laboratories, with the universities, and obviously we had a strong partnership with Telecom Paris. We had several PhD, for instance, dedicated to industrial topics using AI. This is a great way to get the knowledge inside.
Steve, technology now is bringing a revolution in the automotive industry. That's why you are here, Google, in Paris Motor Show. So first, perhaps, can you explain why Google is here today?
So I think if you look back at Google, we have a huge history in the automotive industry. I mean, you see some of our products that we've had in the past, like Google Automotive Services, Android Automotive, Maps, our best-in-class products, arguably, and even our speech products. So we have this huge history within automotive. But if you look at what's happening today, the automotive industry is going through the biggest change, arguably, it's ever been through. I've been in automotive for 26 years, and I've seen a lot of change.
It's a revolution.
But today, it's a revolution. I say it's like the perfect storm. There's all this increased competition, the pressure to change the way vehicles are made and how they behave. And then AI and generative AI coming in, and all of these things coming together is like this perfect storm. And as Google Cloud, our mission is to help companies transform using technology, data, and AI. So this is why we are here. From a Google perspective, we believe that the automotive industry is going to need partners, and we want to be one of those strong partners to help the industry transform.
So, Henry, I want to ask you what's your vision of a smarter car?
So the smart car, and we've always heard the topic of connected vehicle in the past, right? So that's history because all vehicles are connected today. But to me, the smart car is a connection to the human inside it. And to me, the best way to describe the smart car that understands me, knows me, and cares about me. That's a smart car.
The more important is safety.
Absolutely. When we say care about me, that means I've got you covered. I have the capability, the features, the technology to make sure that you're safe. And so to me, a smart car can cover all these bases. It's about personalized, it's about humanity, about humanized tech is what we call.
Steve, perhaps can you tell us how can AI currently be used in the automotive industry?
So AI, if you look at the automotive value chain, everything from design and engineering, manufacturing, supply chain, the customer experience, autonomy, AI is going to be used across all of those aspects.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And but today, as this is a motor show, if we think about customer experience and focus a little bit on that, if you think about how technology is being used in the vehicle, these conversational AI agents, as Henri was saying, how the car behaves towards you, AI is transforming that ability that 5 years ago people thought was make-believe. But now that technology is here and you are able to do things that we could never do before. If you look at autonomy and autonomous driving, I mean, the promise of autonomy has been here for a while, but it's actually becoming real now. And the reality is, within the next 5 to 10 years, we will have autonomous vehicles. And so AI is going to perform have a massive impact in that area too.
And what is for you the biggest challenges to wider adoption of Gen AI in the automotive sector?
Okay, that's a good question. I think there were three main challenges. Number one is data quality. AI is based upon data, and if you don't have good data, you will not have good AI. And so getting data quality is really important. The second one in the automotive industry is the complexity of the organizations. Automotive companies are some of the most complex organizations in the world, and if you are to get great data quality, you need to be able to organize your organization so that you can get the right data at the right time. And then finally, it's about skills and people. The skills that the companies need, everybody is looking for the same skills. We are all looking for the same skills. And so that's why I don't believe that we will succeed alone. And we have to partner with each other to provide the best solutions for the future.
Henry, you think it's difficult to change, it's difficult to live with, Steve spoke about revolution, it's a real cultural change for the teams, for the drivers, and perhaps sometimes they are afraid. We talked with Steve just before about people, about charging. Sometimes they are afraid, they don't know if they are going to charge, if it's possible, if they are going to arrive where they want to go. So it's a big change for everybody.
It's a huge change, and when we talk about technology in the vehicle, again, going back to the point of the technology must anticipate the need. It must lessen the stress of the driver. It must provide the comfort, the lesser anxiety about the whole topic, because we know very well.
Sometimes it's the contrary with electrical vehicles.
Exactly. And so range anxiety is one of the biggest challenges people deal with in a journey. But let's just say you want to go from Paris to Normandy. And this is a trip that Parisians do all the time on the weekend. So along the way, you're going to have to be concerned. Where do I charge? Am I going to find a charging station? Is it going to be available? How long is it going to take me? So to me, there's an opportunity here where we talked about AI playing a big role in taking all these questions away.
But Google is going to say where you can go to charge and so.
Well, we have some of the best maps and the best mapping technology. You add AI and the context of the vehicle, the condition of the vehicle, together with that mapping technology, now you can provide this amazing solution where you don't have to worry about the range anxiety, because we know where you're going, we know the state of the car, we know where the charges are. And so now the car can take away that range anxiety, and that's the dream.
That's the dream. You want to say something more?
Oh, no. Basically what I'm trying to say is that, in terms of the value of AI adding another layer of comfort is extremely key for making sure that our experiences in the vehicles are well. That's all.
Romain, donc you also have 4 major topics, which are predictive maintenance, eco-energy, quality improvement, quality control. Can you explain what this means for you?
Yes, for sure. Let's start with the predictive maintenance. What does it mean? It means that, in fact, we are able to implement sensors in the equipment of our production lines. And a potential breakdown could occur, but in extra, it also predicts the deadline, the timing that we have before to make the reparation. So it's very interesting because it not only say, okay, you should have a breakdown, but it will say you should have a breakdown in 30 hours, meaning that you can organize yourself to make the intervention, greasing or screwing something, just a few minutes. And with that, you avoid the extra cost for the preventive maintenance, and mainly you avoid the duration of a breakdown, meaning that with predictive maintenance, we can easily improve the outputs of the line. This is predictive maintenance. We can speak also about energy savings. For that, I must say it's great. Huh? We started with a first experience in a factory in the north of France. Same principle, in fact. We just implement some sensors able to capture in real time the consumption, but not the consumption of the global line, the consumption of each sub-equipment of the line. And then we compare in real time also the real output, the real production on the line. And by making the comparison easily with the data, quality data, we discovered that, okay, when the machine was not producing the part, it was still using a lot of energy. So we discovered that the way we switch off some equipment when the machine was not producing had drastically to be improved. And with that, and quick analysis, in a few months, we save 15% of energy. It's great, 15% of energy saving on a production line. And honestly, we copy and paste that because we did exactly the same in Mexico very recently. I sent 2 people from my team in Mexico. They work only 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, they save 20% of energy on the production line. So that means that when you have the right competencies, the right technology, the right algorithm, you are able, if you connect the expert, technical expert, and the data scientist, and the operational guy, to have great result in a very short time.
And you have also
quality? Yes, quality. So quality, it's the same. Very interesting. We have some experience where, you know, you imagine we are building complex products at Valeo, okay, with a lot of electronics. And it's sometimes not so easy to know, when you have a very long production lines, which process parameters has the most influence on the quality of the final result. And then we have collected 1 million of product during 4 months of production. And for each of the product, we just add the precise process parameters for 100 of equipment. So imagine a big table with 1 million of product and 100 of parameters. So with the famous partnership with Telecom Paris that we had in Saclay, in fact, we provided them all this data, and after 2 weeks, they told us, but you have an issue. Just try to improve by a few % these 2 precise parameters, and you will see the result. And we improved in 2 weeks. We improved by 40% the reject rate of the line. We were not able to do it by ourselves. It was a first great experience, and in 2 weeks, we improved by 40% the reject rate. So it's incredible, the magnitude of progress that we can do with AI.
And your last topic, it's quality control.
Yeah, quality control. The last example is very interesting also, because, you know, sometimes when you are producing a lot of parts with a classical automatic control, you are not able to discriminate and to sort properly if the part is good or not good. With the system that we have implemented, with the machine learning that we have tested, we have proven that the computer makes 10 times less mistakes than the operators, which is logical because the computer is never tired. Even during night, he has exactly the same behavior than during the day. He doesn't need to go for break. So when we see that we improve by 10% the quality of the sorting of the part, it's also a great improvement.
So, Henry, what do you think about AI impacting the future of the automotive jobs? Because it's going to change for everybody.
So the notion of AI and the role AI plays in the labor force is a little bit misconstrued, because the way we see AI is in the world of a complementary technology to the workforce. Take, for example, even software development in my world. You know, things like Copilot, like a GitHub Copilot, for example, is something that really can help you or help the software engineer in the first maybe 30 or 40% or 50% of the code. And so we're not saying AI is going to do all the coding and we're done with this type of development, but it helps get you started, and then the human element comes in, and you can start working on making sure that what code you have, it gives you faster time to market, more agility, focusing on more time, you can do more projects. And the need for software engineers, for example, is extremely high. And so we are searching the globe for that kind of talent. So to me, this is an augmentation and definitely not a replacement. So AI to me helps us and really puts our daily life at a much easier pace, and we can be more efficient and more agile.
Steve, something important is also ethical considerations surrounding the use of Gen AI in automotive that can be important, particularly in autonomous driving.
Yeah, so of course, when you think about autonomous driving, ethical considerations are huge. But if you take a step back, the same principles apply to all forms of AI, not just autonomous. And it's really around transparency, making sure that we understand when you're using AI to make decisions, how are those decisions being made and what are those decisions? So it's very important that transparency is built in. And then the second one is around data privacy. So especially in the automotive space, a lot of AI is going to be used around customer data. And so with the new regulations that are coming out and the importance of data privacy, consumers are demanding increased data privacy. So it's really important that technology companies and automotive companies are very clear about how we're using that data and what data we're collecting and making sure we understand where that data is going and where it's not going. And so data privacy and transparency are really the key tenets to me around all areas of AI.
Romain, Henry, I suppose you agree with what just Steve said?
I mean, I can add definitely that question of the ethical AI is a question that's always asked. And if you look at the history of ChatGPT, they actually were much faster to get into a point where they were surprised by the results and they had to scale back because they felt like it was, they were worried to make ChatGPT 2 or 3 more available. And so there is that question, but it's all about how we manage, and it's all about what is being used for. And so that's the key aspect of the decision making. Of course, when we're talking about AI in a vehicle and you have these large language models that we're using more to help bridge that conversation between a passenger or a driver and the vehicle, it's still more of a controlled environment in many ways. So you have to add the element of control. You have to add the element of boundary conditions in how you use the technology, and not make it just let's say fair, available to everyone. Anything can do it. Anyone can do anything, and so boundary conditions are important.
Romain, do you want to add something?
Just to say that when we launched this AI program at Valeo, in fact, for wide, what we call AI for all, from the very beginning, we insisted also on the risk, on the type of behavior that some algorithm could have. So in parallel of the risk and of the huge opportunity, we insisted also on the risk and build a specific training for that.
Steve, do you have example to understand how Gen AI can enhance the customer experience through the vehicle's lifestyle?
Yeah, so I think to me what's the most exciting thing about AI in the automotive industry is the fact that the car you buy, historically the car, when you bought a car, over time that vehicle would depreciate in terms of its value to the customer and the features that you got. But now that's kind of changed, and the car you buy today is going to be actually better tomorrow. And that's an exciting prospect for the automotive industry, but also for customers. And so that's the first area. The second area that I find really exciting is when an automotive company builds a feature, and I'm talking about a voice feature or an AI feature, that same feature could be implemented in my car, in Romain's car, in Henri's car, and even though it's the same feature, it will behave differently based on who we are. And so that is where the personalization comes in, and that is where your car will be specific to you, even though it's the same feature that we have implemented. And so the behavior is based on your own behavior. It learns from you. And I think that is something that's unique that we've never experienced before.
And how do you support companies like Renault or Valeo in their transformation? Are they changing their production line? And perhaps you could explain to us how do you work together? Because you said we have to work together. I think you still want to work together.
Yeah.
We work together. Yes.
Yes. Romain kind of spoke about like how he's using data and algorithms to help optimize the production line. I mean, that's today. Where this is going in the future and what's really exciting. So at Google, one of our biggest differentiator is the multimodality of our models. And what I mean by that is it's not just data. We can take multiple inputs, data, video, voice, and we can process all of that together just like a real human being and then take actions. And so if you think about the production line, today we're looking at quality improvements and efficiency improvements using data. Imagine a time tomorrow where you can use video data and you can observe people on the shop floor doing processes. And you can be alerted to when team members are not following the prescribed process, or they are doing a process that could lead to injuries for themselves, or spot defects later on down the line. That is where that's where the future is, and that's where the future is going. And so I think this is the technology that we're building. You know, we want to partner with both of these type of companies to say, let's start using this technology for real life examples. So that's how we're working with them.
Romain, what is your point of view?
Yes, first to be a bit cautious with the camera in the workshop because it could be sensitive.
Privacy.
Okay, but to come back on very concrete cooperation between Valeo and Google. In fact, I can share an event that we have implemented 1 year ago together. It was the hackathon. It was an innovative competition where all the networks of Valeo in the world could compete, and it was specifically dedicated to Gen AI. And each network, HR, finance, legal, R&D, industrial, had to come and to present an idea using Gen AI. And during 3 days, with the full support of AI specialists of Google, each team has to propose a first prototype. It was a great event because, in fact, everybody started to understand what was Gen AI, and very concretely, very surprisingly, we were able, each group, to propose a real prototype working in 3 days. I say that very good. I'm very proud because in all the network, industrial won the challenge.
Great. And for you, Henry, what is your vision of the way of you have to work together?
So we work very closely together. Google is a very strategic partner to the Renault Group and Ampere. Starting from the cloud, we're a GCP company, so we have a big strategic partnership with them on that. We use the AI aspects on our cloud and a lot of the ERP and enterprise solutions. But to me personally, the one I'm really excited about is the partnership we have in the car OS. So the car OS is the first to industry middleware for the software-defined vehicle. And Renault and Ampere and Google are going to be the first to bring to market this type of middleware in car OS. And 2026 is the date. So imagine us being pioneers in technology together, where we bring in our automotive expertise, they bring in their Android expertise collectively to bring in to the ecosystem such a powerful element of the software stack. And also, the third dimension that we do together is the Google Automotive Services. And this is something that is in our vehicles today. So the mapping function, the Google Assistant, the App Store, all those are services and capabilities embedded in our vehicles today. So our partnership with Google is pretty deep. And we always are pushing the next envelope in terms of how we take it to the next level. So we collaborate, work together on road mapping, on the future, and taking things just not from today, but the next 3, 4, 5 years.
And what are the next level for you, Steve, and for you, Romain? The next level?
You mean, in fact, for us, as we are convinced of the use cases with the great result that we explained, the real challenge for us now is the worldwide deployment. Because it's not because it is working once in one factory that is easy to deploy the same solution in 150 factories. So, in fact, the challenge is to find the right balance between the autonomy, because we need to still have creativity, innovation from the local and from the team and from the regions. And on the other side, to have enough standardization, mainly on the architecture and the hardware solutions. So the challenge today is, in fact, to, at central level, be sufficiently in advance to propose architecture and IT solution which is sustainable for a long time and the same for everybody, and to leave on the site and in all the regions the opportunity to use this architecture to apply for the use case that they choose. This is the challenge.
Yes, it's to trusting the transition from experimentation to a large-scale production. That's it.
Yes, yes. And in extra, it's interesting because finally, when you want to invest in AI, you don't need a lot of hardware. You don't need a lot of capex. What you need is clean data, as you said, and competencies. That's why when you come to the management and you explain that you want to save a lot of money with the AI, in fact, you come and you ask people. You don't ask money for capex, you ask from people. And the more you will prove that let's take the example, in 2 weeks, I've been able to save 20% of energy. So globally, I would say 50 kilo euro for the full year. So when in 2 weeks, I save 50 kilo euro for a full year, it's easier for me to convince management to have more people dedicated to AI.
And for you, Steve, what is your next challenge? Perhaps it's a software-defined vehicle?
Yeah, I think the next challenge for us is really imagining what that future is going to be. I come back to my first comment. The transformation in the industry is so big, and we're kind of limited by our imagination. And the software-defined vehicle and generative AI in the vehicle is going to transform not only the way that these vehicles are built, but the way that they operate. And for us, that is the challenge that we're facing right now, working with Henri and his team to understand what is that vision, what should that next generation of vehicle be. And the challenge is that technology is moving so rapidly that we have to think big, and we have to have the ability to change rapidly as the technology is changing. What we could do with generative AI 12 months ago, it's unbelievable, like how far we've come. It's amazing. Like every month you see how rapidly the technology is changing, and so that is going to be the challenge. But I think having strong partnerships with Valeo and with Renault, where the teams are working together, that is how we're going to succeed. And that partnership to me is the most important thing.
And what advice would you give to automotive companies intending to adopt Gen AI?
So first thing, have a strong partnership. You cannot do this by yourselves. The technology is changing far too rapidly, and it's a lot of investment. So have a really strong partnership, have joint teams working together. Second thing I would say is the skill set that the teams in those companies need. They need to build up their own skill set and get the right talent, and I think that's going to be super important. And then probably I'll finish off with the third thing. Be clear on the business objectives that you're trying to achieve. It's too often I see when people talk about generative AI, they get into a room and they brainstorm for a day and they fill a whiteboard with all these ideas. But I think we have to remember that generative AI is not creating new problems. Generative AI is solving your existing problems in a different way. So take a look at your existing problems, whether it's manufacturing efficiency, warranty claims, kind of customer experience, all of the things that exist today, and then apply generative AI to those problems. And once you have clarity of that, then you can avoid trying to work on too many different things. And then just like as Romain said, once you then succeed and you show the benefits to your executive management, suddenly it becomes very clear as to why you're doing this. And then the next projects will then easily come.
Romain, I saw you agreed with Steve.
Yeah, for sure. The question was an advice. First, when you decide to launch an initiative, choose the right use case. Start from the issue, start from the problem. You have a quality issue, we have a competitive issue, you have an energy issue. So choose the real concrete topic. After, I would say also, don't underestimate the time required to collect the data, clean the data, prepare the data. You know, the return from experience that we have is that we have spent around 70% of our time doing an AI project just on the data preparation.
And for you, Henry, so what is the advice you could give?
So the advice I would give my fellow automakers is that, especially the ones who are legacy automakers, is that we all dealing with technology scale, what I call technology scale. So we all went through this autonomous vehicle revolution, and then we see where we landed. And now we are kind of, the hype is kind of calming down a little bit, and we're in this stage to say it's about ADAS, it's about safety, and it's about incrementally going up into the level 3 and so forth. Then there's the EV movement, where everybody moved down the EV path, and also now what we're starting to see is a bit of this technology scale situation, right? So for the legacy OEM, joining the technology movement is always a question of scale, and this is something that we need to be more patient and continue the course and not adjust or pivot based on a reaction or a situation. At the end of the day, the dust will settle and technology will land if it has the value. So that's number one. Number two, it's about culture. And culture is a powerful thing, meaning when you bring in your legacy OEM culture, which is really served the industry well for 100 years, you still have to be pragmatic and reevaluate to say, okay, if we are to be in the world of agility, if we are to be in the world of moving fast, what do we need to do and be seriously committed to do in order for us to be in a situation and where we're competing with the new entrants, the new mobility service providers, the Teslas of the world, and so forth. So this is where I would say my advice is to always push the envelope, reevaluate, and make sure that you are putting in place the levers to move to the next century of how a company should operate. And so this would be my advice.
So I think you have some questions for Henry, Steve, and Romain. I think
everyone is very clear. No questions.
No, I'm sure. If you want to ask in French, if you prefer. Ah,
Sorry.
Ici, puis après là.
I'll be asking a lot of questions today. My question is, it's so nice to see an OEM and a tier 1 supplier sitting together there, so I'm going to make the most of it and ask my question to you. We've been talking a lot about partnership, and I think the world has evolved in the past 10 years from supplying to partnering together. Romain, you've spent your whole life in factories. I love factories. How can you better partner by, I don't know, combining the way, you produce a piece, then Renault produces a car. What has evolved in that line, and what can bring maybe digital twins in that, and interconnected systems between suppliers and OEMs?
Yeah, first, I must say that on these particular things on innovation and technology, we are not in competition. And the best proof is that I was at Renault around 1 year ago in Flins. Renault organized for the ecosystem, university, but also suppliers like us, or partnership like us. And we were very happy to go in details in the success of Renault, because Renault with the metaverse is really advanced in this OEM field. So we were very happy to exchange with Renault, and we have, I can tell you that in a few weeks we organize also the same type of meeting. So as we are not in competition, we are fully engaged in sharing the best practices to take the best benefits of the good practice of each sector.
So maybe just to add, so the role of the tier 1 is changing. There's no doubt about it, right? So the traditional pyramid approach. We have the OEM, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It's well-known fact. It's changing. And now what you have is the OEM is in this wheel. It's in the hub position. And then you have in that wheel many spokes, right? And each of these spokes now become an ecosystem. So now you're talking directly to the tech players, the hyperscalers, the silicon providers, the tier 1s, what have you. And that's a necessary change that had to take place because technology is moving way too fast. And you cannot be working in series. You have to work in this approach in order to gain the best leverage to move fast. And if we see what's happening in the world today, you have to look at China and how China is moving so fast in bringing technology. It necessitates the need to do this and move faster.
I think a question here. Fabs, on peut vous passer le micro. C'est juste là, monsieur. Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Je vous remercie. Bonjour, Frédéric Moret. Peut-être une question pour Romain et Steve. How to put AI on the shop floor? How to get that the supervisor in the UAP can get intelligent support, telling him when to put the mold on the machine, what to do in case of an issue happening. So what do you think about that? Is it for now? Is it for 3 years, 10 years? Thank you.
First, it's very interesting because the example that I have taken about the line producing 1 million of parts with 100 of parameters, it was typically a question for the supervisor of the line. In fact, he saw his quality level. Okay, he didn't see how to improve more, so we say, okay, we need to have this extra inputs from AI, and we tested that with the supervisor. But this is feasible because we have proven that it is feasible, but it was not in real time. Okay, so for the moment, we are able to capture the data, make an analysis with some specialists, and then to give the result to the supervisor. The real challenge now is to build a solution more autonomous, more real time, giving in real time to the supervisor the possibility to give some advice. Obviously, it will be always the process guy or the supervisor who will make the decision, but at least to provide in real time the advice coming from AI. And this is something that we need to develop. For us, it's not yet ready.
And maybe I'll just add one different perspective. Today, the knowledge that's on the shop floor, it's very hard to replicate that, and we're actually losing a lot of skilled workforce members. And so one area that AI can really help is by ingesting all of that data, all of the knowledge from the workers, and using that knowledge before they retire and putting that into the system so that when problems occur, the AI agent can not only just highlight that there's a problem, but it can also then suggest these are the remedies that you need to take. And what's really important with AI, we've all heard about hallucinations. So the one thing at Google that we do is where we typically ground the result in your data, which means that when we suggest a solution, we actually show you where that solution is coming from. So you know that it's grounded in actual data. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, not just even on the shop floor, but if you take that to dealers, dealerships, they're facing the same issue with technicians and trying to kind of replace the technicians that are retiring. So the ability to help younger engineers coming in, being trained up on these technologies which are more complex, and the machines are way more complex and getting more complex, this can also, generative AI can also play a really active role in that space.
Henry, perhaps?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, because there's some good topics, especially when we talk about manufacturing, is that the role of the digital twin. And having a digital twin capability in which you have the entire shop floor mapped as an image in a physical, digital way, gives you a lot of perspective in terms of managing, creating those efficiencies, looking for the process improvements, and managing the factory in a way that is much, much, much more faster and quicker than before. So I think the role of digital twin is also key, because AI can really play a big role in the cloud when you have that digital twin sitting to create and give you anticipations, monitoring the whole process of manufacturing.
Romain, you want to say something more about
Maybe,
that?
Yes, yes. In fact, to come back on your questions, if I take another example, the one of Mexico, if we don't have from the beginning the supervisor of the line plus the maintenance technician of the line, we cannot do anything. Meaning that we could have the data scientists showing things, but if we have nobody to be able to modify the programming of the PLC or automatize some actions or concretely modify the machines based on the recommendation from the data scientists, we can do nothing. So it's again a question of partnership, data scientists, operational guys, and experts of the process.
Perhaps a last question. Oh, some more questions. Yes. Le micro, voilà. On vous on fait passer. Merci.
Thank you. I was surprised to hear you mentioning CarOS. So I was expecting, do you foresee any future battle on software being the next competitive advantage between cars? And like car OS and software being decisive information and for the customer when they are to choose their cars. And with softwares, in the perspective also of personalization, do you expect to connect cars to home systems, like IoT ecosystems?
That's a very good question. So from our perspective, the answer on CarOS is really simple. What it does, it really creates democracy around the middleware. And so what we're talking about here, things that we cannot really advertise to a customer because the customer doesn't care. If it's CarOS, or if it's AutoSAR, or whatever middleware we're using, what they care about is the end experience and what they get in their vehicles. And that's what we are trying to create with the SDV project, a continuous life cycle engagement with that customer throughout the whole ownership or lease experience and so forth. So 2 years after the vehicle is sold, 3 years, 4 years, we can literally push a feature to that customer or update their vehicle to the latest capability. And so on that end, in terms of connection to health, home, life, that is the biggest value also SDV can do because you are also creating that ecosystem around it. Right now, what we do with SDV, we decouple the hardware from the software. So you're no longer monolithic where every time you need to make a change, you have to go back to the vehicle and wait 2, 3 years, 4 years to make the change. Live, real time, you can make those connections, you can make those IoT interfaces, you can get your home, you can get health, all these things connected, bridging everything seamlessly with your vehicle. So that's the beauty of our SDV program.
And maybe I'll just add one thing onto that. So when I bought my first car a long time ago, the thing I did the most, I would wash my car engine. I bought a little Escort XR3i in the UK. It was my like little hot hatch. And when people would come around to see my car, I would show off my engine. I would open up the trunk and show them it was a polished engine. And that was what people did. That was the attraction of cars back then. Fast forward to today, I would argue that no one in this room has lifted the trunk to look at their engine on their latest car. People don't do that anymore. So the thing that attracts people to cars is the experience. It's not the OS, it's the experience that you provide. And it's that digital experience. That's what people are wowed by. And so that is where the future battleground is going to be. Whereas before it was horsepower and acceleration and engines, tomorrow it's going to be customer experience, and so that's where that's why we need to partner so closely together to help build that.
Okay, thank you for all your questions. Thank you to Steve, Henry, and Romain. Thank you for everybody.
Alors, je vous invite à sortir de la salle, voilà, bien évacuer la salle. Et puis, pour ceux qui souhaitent rester, on va vous rebadger. Voilà, une petite information. Mais en tout cas, merci de quitter la salle, puisqu'il y a des préinscrits qui attendent pour la suivante. Merci beaucoup. Alors, j'invite vraiment les personnes qui se sont inscrites à rester dans la salle, parce qu'il y a des gens qui sont préinscrits. Donc si vous n'êtes pas préinscrits, excusez-moi, mais on va devoir laisser la place aux ceux qui se sont préinscrits. Êtes-vous tous préinscrits pour la suivante? Merci.
So we are now going to talk about infotainment and ecosystem to rediscover the joy of driving in the age of connected vehicles. And let's talk about that with Laurens van den Acker, Executive Vice President Design Renault Group. Thanks for coming. Thanks for sitting, yes. And with him, Jürgen Behrens, Vice President General Manager Google Maps Automotive. Thank you for being here. And we will receive in a second time Philippe de Oliveira, Senior Vice President Automotive and IoT at IDEMIA Secure Transaction. So let's start with you, Jürgen Behrens, with the rise of advanced maps, smart assistants, large language model. How do you see the in-vehicle experience transforming in the 5-10 years, next years?
So the nice thing about the automotive industry is that you can look quite far out because roadmaps are long and development cycles are long. So Google is a relatively young company. I think we're about 26 years old, but we've actually been involved in automotive since about 2005, starting with providing places data for car companies to use in their navigation system, and we added a projected technology so people could connect their phone to their car. Obviously, a lot of your life happens on your smartphone. We built an Android version for the vehicle, then made some of our applications accessible on the car. So Google Maps is the one that my team works on and I work on every day. But also Assistant and Play Store and YouTube and Chrome are all kind of available in the car. And I think for us, what we see happening is that we are going to continue to allow people to extend their digital life that is about their car, but also about their home and their phone and all sorts of other devices they use into the vehicle. We're bringing lots of innovation to each of these different components. Maps is the one I work on, so like the maps will become more rich, more interactive. We'll have more real-time information about what's happening on the road. They'll become more 3D, more realistic, more comparable to what you see. And I think the interaction that maps will have with the user will become more natural. So less, let's say, pre-formatted, for example, guidance messages, but more natural guidance messages that talk to you like somebody would who's sitting next to you. If you're in the car with someone else who knows where to go, they wouldn't say in 200 meters turn left. They would maybe say turn right after the school, or turn left at the gas station. And so we're trying to see if we can use large language models to allow the navigation experience to talk to you in a more natural way, based on what it sees. And so the other thing that I think we are working on is making more use of the sensor capabilities of the vehicle itself. Cars are stuffed with sensors these days. Sensors are inside the cabin. Sensors are outside, on the outside of the car. There are cameras. Many cars have more than 10 cameras that are looking in all sorts of directions.
It's going to change a lot.
It's going to change a lot, and the information that these sensors provide can be used to make the experience for the driver and passengers more customized and more personalized. And
so for you, Laurens, what do you think about just tell us, Jürgen, is going to change everything? These technologies can be integrated to avoid driver distraction and information overload, because it can be complicated.
Yeah, it's true. And obviously safety is incredibly important for driving a car. I mean, for many people, driving a car might be the most dangerous thing you do. I mean, if you're not taking care and you're driving 130 kilometers an hour on a freeway and you don't pay attention for 3 seconds, you might end up against a tree. So it's something we take very seriously, and also Google takes very seriously, of course. The driver distraction is something that the key is to give you the information that you want, that you need at the right time. And the reality is that we have ever more information that's projected at us at any given time. The time that you stepped in your car and you were disconnected from the rest of the world is over. Your life continues even if you drive the car, and your life continues. I remember 20 years ago working on a concept car that we called 24/7, and the topic was exactly this: how do you stay connected while driving? So the good news is that we now have technologies that can
Yes.
actually help you manage the information.
Because if not, it could be dangerous.
Yeah, well, it is dangerous. Can be dangerous. What's really cool too is that the cars are now are connected, so they know what's happening around them. We can manage the information that is being given to you, and the car can anticipate your needs. In fact, the car has made an evolution from being a dead mechanical object to becoming an object that protects you passively or actively, and now it becomes an intelligent object. Still not intelligent like us, but the car is now, with an SDV, getting a brain. The car will be able to anticipate your needs. And the key is now to make it learn quick enough so we can give you what you need when you need it. And this is a huge challenge, I would argue, for which we're going to use all the technologies available, like AI, etc. But we need to make sure that we stay on the artificial intelligence side and not on the artificial stupidity side, you know, and both have a chance of existing.
So, Jürgen, many component manufacturers are moving towards more open ecosystem. What are the benefits and challenges of this approach for both of car manufacturers and customers?
Well, we believe in open ecosystems very much, and I think you can define open ecosystems in multiple ways. Let me talk about software ecosystems. Maybe Laurens wants to talk about some other, but we're both Dutch, so I apologize for pronouncing his name in Dutch
properly
in public. What we have tried to do with the products we brought to the car, particularly the more platform-like ones, like the car OS that Henri talked about before, Android, is to make it possible essentially for software development to be decoupled. So historically, when cars were made, software was defined in the same way that mechanical components were defined. They had a spec, interfaces, and drawings almost. And if everyone just implements exactly to the specification, you can all click it together, and then it should work. But that is not the way software innovation happens, because it's incredibly rigid. And so, what software platforms do is they allow different teams and different companies to develop things in total isolation. With the confidence that when they bring their component into this ecosystem environment, that it will work, that it will behave predictably. So, as an example, my team builds the Google Maps client that sits on Android in Renault cars, and we release this software every 2 weeks, which means that every car that has Google Maps built in get a new version of Google Maps every 2 weeks. Everywhere.
2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks. Which means that we can fix defects, we can introduce new features. We don't necessarily introduce them in one go for everyone. We experiment with maybe sometimes a few users or only one country, and if the results are good, we roll out. And that's so different from how it used to be when you bought a car and it had software that you would use for life. And that's only possible because we use Android. And so the benefit of using these platforms is that it kind of instills this discipline in the teams that provide the software. That they have to work in a certain way. They have to respect the platform and use the interfaces the platform has. And if they do that, they are rewarded with incredible flexibility.
And so, Laurens, what do you think about this evolution?
Yeah, I think this is great, and the advantage of Android is that there's millions of developers that can develop new features for the cars. So it's truly an open system. Jürgen talked more about software ecosystems. When I think of ecosystems, I also think about how the car could be part of your personal ecosystem, whether it's your watch, your iPhone, your house. I dream of a car that when it approaches the house knows that it's coming. We did actually a concept car called Symbiose that the house starts to light up when the car is approaching. The house starts to put the lighting on. The heating on,
right.
The music from your car switches to the house. The car opens up the garage without you having to take care. And the car and the house could become symbiotic in the sense that they could share data, energy, even space. So in a perfect world, the car, like I said, is not cut off from your life, but your car is becoming an integral part of your ecosystem. And I think this is what I see some brands do, that once you bought into an ecosystem of a brand, you are hooked and you cannot get out of it without getting rid of all the other parts of your hardware. And so this, in my view, is a new way of a clever way also of connecting clients to you and making them part of your brand. And I'm also longing for the day when the car is connected to my garage, so I don't have to go 3 stores down into a dark garage and pick it up. You know, it can park itself and come out when I need it. You know, there is. I can't wait for the future to happen to get a little bit more time back in my life.
Yes, it's when does it arrive?
I think it's not, frankly, it's not unfeasible at all, you know. And it's our role in Renault to democratize some of these technologies. We might not be always the first, because very often to be the first, you need to have big investments, and it's
Yes,
more
of
for
course.
some of the premium brands. But I think we want to be the first to democratize it, and this is our strength. If Renault at its best, this is where we are good. This is why we have Google Automotive Services in our car today. That's why we have an avatar now in the Renault 5. We are trying to be the first to bring the best to the most.
So we speak about the future of driving. So, Jürgen, software-defined vehicles, advanced driver assistance system, advanced mapping system are converging. So, how do you see that future of driving?
We talked earlier about safety, and of course, it's important that the vehicle, the interaction the vehicle has with the driver, is inherently safe. Like you're not too distracted, you're not given information you don't need. But the cars are actually themselves becoming very capable of protecting us from doing stupid stuff as well. They brake when before we're about to hit somebody. They can keep us in our lanes. They can make sure that we don't change lanes when there's a car in the way. And they are starting to more and more take over the task of driving.
They take care of us.
They take care of us. Not, of course, they are already designed to be safe in the case of an accident. But
yes.
I think they're getting much better at preventing accidents, and they will be better at driving than humans are. Because I'm a pilot in my free time. My autopilot is better than I am at flying the plane. It's just 100% concentrated on the task at all times, and I think the same will happen in a car. And I was in San Francisco not so long ago taking a ride in Waymo, which is an autonomous driving company that's part of Alphabet as well, where you get in a taxi and the steering wheel moves, but there's nobody sitting in the seat.
It's strange.
It's a little strange, but after about 3 seconds, you realize that the car is better at driving than the driver you would otherwise have had, and also doesn't make phone calls and open the windows and play music you don't like and
speak with you.
It's not trying to arrange his next job. So like it's an altogether better experience. But essentially, the car drives much more safely than any human I've ever seen drive. Just better. Even though it's complex, even though there's fog and there's hills and there's other traffic and there's people crossing the road, and so this technology is coming. Building a Waymo car is still very expensive, but we are in the process of bringing the cost down so that it becomes achievable for passenger. For me to have that same feature in my own vehicle, and I think that will happen. Let's say before the end of this decade, that this was accessible. And the technology that Renault works on and the technology that Google works on will contribute to that. Maps provide some essential information that these systems need to know what's around the corner to be able to drive safely. Take your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry. So.
I can keep talking if you wish.
Yes.
So, Jürgen.
Yes, Lawrence.
Shall I read the question?
Yes. So, what do you think about just said, Jürgen?
Well, I don't like the idea that we'll all be driving autonomously in the future. Okay, but I'm not very objective, so. To be honest, but what I do imagine is that I do think that the current driving experience is absolutely average, okay? In the sense that when I'm driving, I need to have my legs in a specific place. I need to have my hands in a specific place. I need to look at a specific place on the road. There will be very shortly a camera that's looking at my eyes to make sure that I keep my eyes on the road and I'm not distracted any other way. If not, the radars will start to notice and give you, a flash you and whatever. So this doesn't seem like a very attractive future to me. And what I do hope is that there will be an autonomous function on the cars, but that you have a choice when to use it and when not to use it. In my ideal world, I can switch between the two. In other words, instead of having a continuously average driving experience, I would like to be able to have a super exciting driving experience when I want. You know, if I see a beautiful curvy road along the coast and there's no traffic and I can really enjoy my vehicle. And if I am on a freeway, I do Paris-Amsterdam quite regularly, and I can tell you from Paris to Lille, it's one straight road, 250 kilometers. I would love to do other stuff than just having to concentrate and every 30 seconds, activate a little bit the steering wheel so I keep in my lane. And so my perfect world is actually the best of both, where we use the autonomous technologies to let me do other things, give me time back, or if I'm commuting to work. But if I want to, I can have the most amazing driving experience that I want. And what's going to help us is the switch to EVs, combined with torque vectoring is a feature we're showing on the new Alpine A390, which allows you to drive autonomously like on a carpet, a floating carpet, a flying carpet. Because if you drive autonomously, you want the car to be extremely predictive. This is what gives you the sense of security. It's amazing how quickly people trust a robot, too quickly sometimes. But if the car is completely predictive, where it brakes easily, it stops easily, it indicates where it wants to go to, no sudden movements, you have confidence. And then when you switch, you want to have complete control. And like I said, if you're a pilot, it's exactly this experience, in fact. When you go straight, you just put it on autopilot. When you land and when you get up and when the fun part, then you can see that the pilots want to take action because that's the part that they love.
I have a question for both of you about bug. Just like mobile phone, understanding software bugs in vehicles can play a big part in fixing issue in the long run. So how do you, Google Maps and Renault, how do you think about the types of data that would be helpful to improving the driving experience for all people?
You want me to start?
If you want.
So, of course, all software has bugs. And if we have more software in the car, there will be more bugs too. So the key thing, obviously, is to make sure that there's a lot of testing that prevents anything very bad from happening. A lot of software bugs are kind of innocent. They have maybe some effect, but they don't necessarily cause a significant issue or let alone a safety issue. But if you have... if you use the open ecosystems we talked about earlier, and if you build your software architecture to be modular, and you're able to develop individual components and update them separately, then you can resolve these things when they are found without much trouble. Just like it happens today on our phones. Our phones get new software updates of apps and operating system all the time, and they solve lots of bugs, including many that you have never seen. So the key thing there is just to have this smooth, easy updatability that doesn't necessarily draw together all of the, that doesn't force the OEM to update all of the software together, but it allows individual bits to be updated. And we do this today with Google Maps. I said earlier we update it every 2 weeks, and we can do that without making any other changes to any other software in the car. In Maps, there's a second component that can be buggy, which is the actual map itself, the data. The world changes all the time. The new roads get introduced, authorities change the speed limits, the directions of travel, street names. new areas get built, new addresses get added. So there's
it happens all the time.
information. So the key thing there is to make sure that you're able to update that information. Obviously, we need to detect this change quickly and process it in our map, but then have the ability to roll that data out to everyone that needs to have it. And so, in the old days, when maybe 10 years ago, when I was working in mapping in automotive, we would release maps 4 times per year, and they would contain information that was at least 6 months old by the time we would release them, because it would take us 3 months to produce them and 3 months to test them, and then we would send them to a company that would compile them into a format that would then give it to the OEM in the beginning on DVDs. It could easily take a year and a half before a change was in the car. The other day I was on my way to a restaurant with a customer, and we noticed that there was an error in the map in a particular road in a German city. From the back of the car, I sent an email to my colleagues, and the next day we passed the same spot and it was fixed. And
Great.
so that kind of speed of iteration and of improvement is what you need. And then at that point, bugs are not necessarily such an issue, as long as you can see them and fix them quickly.
So, Lawrence, what is your answer about these questions about bugs?
To be honest, I'm not sure if I have a lot of value to add to the question about bugs. The only bugs I care about are design bugs, and unfortunately they're in metal, and they're a little bit harder to fix, when I see them. So, but I think we're doing a lot with simulation, simple fixes. Like I think when the car is starting, that the system starts up again every time. This was a very simple thing, and it made also that the system was always the software was always in the right mood, But to be honest, on bugs, this is a quality issue more than it is a design issue.
Let's talk about electrical vehicles, because sometimes people, we just say that before, sometimes people are afraid because of the charging, because they don't know exactly of its work. So what do you think, who knows about helping people for charging stops?
I think it's charging and autonomy is very psychological. It's the anxiety that you get to not be able to charge your car, or that it doesn't go far enough. I do think that this is improving dramatically very quickly as we speak. Even in France, maybe not all the countries, but I don't have this anxiety at all in the Netherlands, for instance, which is a small country, very flat. You have charging stations every 10-20 kilometers. So all this anxiety is disappearing. What we noticed, especially between the Mégane and the Scenic that just came out, the Scenic has a range of 625 kilometers, autonomy on the freeway more than 400. And the Mégane has 450, range on the freeway around 300. The anxiety for range is more linked to your range, your personal range. In other words, if you're driving and the car has to stop before you want to stop, it's an issue. But if you want to stop before the car needs to stop, then it's not so much an issue. So it's a psychological range. If we go beyond 400 kilometers, you want to stop earlier than the car, and then charging is not an issue.
What is your answer?
So I agree with Lawrence. It is a psychological factor that affects people, and it slows down the adoption of electrical vehicles. I've been driving an EV since, I think, for 11 years. So back in the day, it was kind of sometimes difficult to find, a charging station. But these days, there are so many of them, and technology is also making it easier. And so we have, I think at the beginning of this year, we had over 400,000 EV chargers in our data, and we see an incredible increase in number of people who navigate to charging stations. So people are using maps to find them. Something like a 60% increase every year. We also, in Google
I think
Maps...
that's frankly a great feature in the Google Maps, where you can see the charging stations, which ones are used, how far they are, and it's getting extremely accurate. So it's
very useful.
Yeah, extremely.
And we also make sure that, like, the one scenario that maybe doesn't happen so often, but people worry about, is the longer trip. You live in Paris, you go to your holiday on the Côte d'Azur, where I'm sure a lot of people in Paris do this.
It's far away.
It's a long drive. It's more than usually a battery can handle. So what Google Maps will do in the car is it understands the battery level, it has the car's energy model, so it knows the charging and discharging behavior, and it will automatically add charging stops to your route where the charger is available and where you have the shortest overall trip length, basically, in time. So we try to make this easier, and we need to do more to make it even easier. But I agree with Laurens. I think it's as a problem, it's kind of going away.
So do you have questions for... Oh, great. On va vous passer un micro. Il y a des questions. Est-ce qu'on peut apporter un micro? Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Are you both working actively on an immersive navigation experience for the cockpit of the future? I mean, enhanced POIs you could see through the windshield or through the windows. And if yes, when do you see this happening for real in series?
The answer is yes. I think customer experience, I want to pick up where Steve left off. I'm convinced that customer experience will be the crucial differentiator for vehicles in the next generation. Of course, design will still play a great role in terms of purchasing. We know that design is 50% of the purchasing decision is linked to design, but it's not the only one. And I think once you get to a stage where you have the car that you love and that you like, but then it needs to perform. It needs to perform and be connected as good as your cell phone, as good as your smartphone. For a very long time, we've been running around the smartphone industry, and every time we came out with a vehicle, they said yes, but my phone does this, and I think we finally caught up. And that means also now we can actually work with Google's team, but also others. And the experience that we will create will be extremely important. And for me, it already starts outside of the car. It starts when you pick up your phone and you decide on your next trip. Then when you approach the car, how it reacts to you. When you get in, how you travel, you charge. You do your different activities, and then when you leave it. And what we're calling the customer journey of this experience needs to be completely touching on all the emotions that you have. So not only seeing and touching, but also hearing, sensing. The car will be able to sense your mood. It might help you to find destinations. It can tell you about the journey that you're having. It can say, hey, there's a cool restaurant, museum area where you might be interested in. It can learn from your behavior. In the best way, the car could actually become a tool of expression of all the things that you might want to do. To come back to this travel that I do between Paris and Amsterdam, I might be driving by the best restaurant for 5 years, the most interesting museum forever without knowing it. And I can't wait for my car to help me enhance my experience of driving. And I think if we can combine this enhanced experience with driving with the love of driving, I think this is true mobility that not only moves you physically, which is how it started, but it starts to move you emotionally, virtually, in all the senses possible. So immersion is the way to go.
We have another question, I think.
Maybe for you, Laurens, stepping back a bit from the experience or in-vehicle experience design to design itself. We are talking about Gen AI being a good partner or good collaborator for designing, creating stuff. You and your team, you are renowned for your creative design and so on. How do you use today, or are you not using, and why, Gen AI in the teams?
Yeah, we are using it. We have no taboos. We take every creativity, every tool that we can think of. We use it. We study it. We've actually, like in any company, I suppose, a work group that we look at it from different ways. We look at it as a way to generate ideas for creativity, and we look at it as a way to automate time-consuming actions that just are extremely boring and repetitive and useless. That if we want to go quick, Luca, our CEO, is asking us to go twice as fast, twice as cheap, affordable, I have to say. But and AI is going to be one of the tools that we get there. We're looking at it from a 2D perspective and a 3D perspective. 2D, we're getting pretty good at it. I mean, using, all know Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E. What we're finding, there is not one AI that does it all. It's kind of like making a soup. You put in different ingredients to do certain areas of the job. So we use Firefly from Adobe or Midjourney or Magnify or what have you. There's the Viscom, there's many. And the holy grail in our view for AI in design is to go from 2D to 3D. So we're making a sketch and the AI can help us to read in 3D what we are sketching in 2D. If we can make this step, and Autodesk and others are working on this, this would be an absolute revolutionary game changer, because this would help us to make the switch from 2D to 3D very quick, and then from 3D to tooling. We are in the process of reducing the development time, and AI could play and will play a big role in this. So it's a very exciting, but it's also, I warn you, it's a wormhole. It's kind of like Las Vegas. It's very addictive. You keep trying, and you never find what you really want, So I know companies that put a time limit on the use, because in the end, you have played all night and you lost everything.
Okay, thank you, both of you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jürgen. Lawrence, you stay with me, and we switch in French. Thank you. We're going to switch in French, et on va accueillir à présent Philippe de Oliveira, senior vice-président automotive et IoT chez IDEMIA Secure Transactions. Merci d'applaudir Philippe.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Alors racontez-nous justement comment a commencé l'aventure d'IDEMIA. Ça a démarré avec la sécurité, c'est ça?
Absolument. Peut-être pour rebondir ce qui vient d'être dit, on a parlé de véhicules autonomes, bugs, mise à jour, services, écosystème. Tout ça s'appuie sur deux piliers essentiels. C'est la sécurité et la connectivité. Ça, c'est le métier initial d'IDEMIA. Aujourd'hui, je suis à peu près sûr que chaque personne dans la salle a utilisé une de nos technologies aujourd'hui. Soit avec votre téléphone, naviguer, soit en payant votre déjeuner avec votre carte bleue ou votre téléphone. À l'aéroport, les portiques biométriques, c'est vraiment notre activité au quotidien. Et c'est vrai qu'il y a à peu près de 20 ans, quand les constructeurs sont venus vers nous, quand les premiers véhicules connectés sont arrivés, l'ambition initiale, c'était on veut se connecter au réseau cellulaire qui est disponible aujourd'hui pour les téléphones mobiles. Mais par contre, on a une exigence spécifique au monde de l'automobile. C'est toujours connecté et partout connecté. Et c'est vrai que dans tous ces espaces-temps, tous ces développements qui ont été faits, on a cessé d'innover autour de ces solutions qui permettent d'accéder à tous les réseaux de tous les opérateurs. On vient d'ailleurs de lancer notre nouvelle solution, des nouvelles technologies de ce qu'on appelle des eSIM, qui vont permettre effectivement à tous ces véhicules de se connecter au réseau 4G, 5G, partout dans le monde.
Et alors aujourd'hui, la tendance, c'est ce qu'on appelle l'hyper-personnalisation. C'est vers ça qu'on est en train d'aller, qu'on va?
Je pense que ça a été dit avant sur tout l'enjeu autour de l'utilisateur, de la capacité à personnaliser les services. Certains parlent de iPhoneisation de l'expérience utilisateur. Je ne sais pas si c'est positif ou négatif, mais si on regarde ce qui s'est produit dans le monde du téléphone mobile, c'est une industrie qui a été capable de complètement passer d'un monde où on avait des critères de design de produits, le téléphone à clapet, l'antenne qui sort ou qui sort pas. Et petit à petit, on s'est focalisé sur l'interface utilisateur, les services, le contenu. Et on est passé complètement d'une addiction, d'une fidélité à un operating system. Vous êtes iOS ou vous êtes Android, mais vous n'êtes jamais les deux. Et ça, c'est exactement dans cette direction qu'on se projette, dans cette personnalisation autour de l'utilisateur et des services qu'on est capable de mettre à disposition.
Laurence, vous aussi, vous constatez cette tendance à l'hyper-personnalisation aujourd'hui? Vous l'avez déjà dit.
Ça dépend un petit peu. En fait, quand on parle dans l'automobile de hyper-personnalisation, c'est plutôt de trouver l'objet que tu souhaites, que tu désires. Et ça dépend. Il y a des gens qui veulent absolument choisir chaque élément à leur goût. Et il y a d'autres qui font confiance à l'entreprise d'avoir le bon goût pour eux, de préparer. Comme ça, ils peuvent le choisir et l'acheter sans qu'ils doivent être impliqués. Alors, je pense qu'on ne peut pas dire en général que la personnalisation, c'est ce que tout le monde veut. Mais ça joue peut-être probablement un rôle avec Alpine. Il y a des clients qui veulent aller beaucoup plus loin dans le choix sur chaque élément. Notre job en tant que designer, c'est de s'assurer d'un niveau de design qui est respectable. Mais ce que je pense d'un point de vue soft, personnalisation peut jouer un rôle très important parce que si la voiture peut apprendre de tes usages, elle peut aussi s'adapter, elle peut te proposer, elle peut vraiment te rendre la vie plus facile et plus fluide. Et ça, forcément, ça c'est un énorme atout qu'on veut jouer à fond.
Justement, vous avez des exemples, Philippe, à nous donner. La voiture nous rend la vie plus facile parce que, par exemple, elle va nous reconnaître. Parce que le problème, c'est de savoir qui entre dans la voiture. Et par exemple, maintenant, avec la clé digitale, on saura exactement qui est la personne qui est là. Et la voiture va pouvoir, du coup, s'adapter à nous, à nos préférences, puisqu'elle va nous reconnaître.
Alors, ce que vous évoquez, on ne parle pas du futur, on parle de ce qui se passe déjà aujourd'hui. Il y a une tendance qui est évidente, c'est le téléphone, vous l'avez dit, c'est un objet, il n'y a pas plus personnel comme objet aujourd'hui, le téléphone. C'est un objet que vous prêtez à personne, c'est vraiment le vôtre. Et la clé digitale, le concept, c'est assez simple. Hein. C'est vous allez ouvrir et démarrer votre voiture avec votre téléphone mobile. C'est le seul produit que vous utilisez. Je pense qu'on est sur une transition des nouveaux usages qui sont presque générationnels, voire sociétals. Moi, j'ai des enfants qui sont des jeunes ados, des jeunes adultes, je ne sais plus exactement. Le seul produit qui n'oublie jamais quand ils sortent de la maison, c'est le téléphone mobile.
Oh bah, je pense que c'est tout le monde. Hein,
le portefeuille, il n'y a pas besoin.
On revient le chercher. Donc.
Exactement, le portefeuille, il n'y en a pas besoin. J'ai la carte bleue, j'ai même ma carte d'identité maintenant dans mon téléphone. La clé, j'aurais qu'à sonner à l'entrée. Et je pense qu'aujourd'hui, la clé de la voiture, il s'en accommoderait bien si elle était dans le téléphone. Et ça, c'est en train complètement de prendre une transition importante là-dessus. Bien sûr, ça s'appuie sur des savoir-faire importants. Hein. Aujourd'hui, la sécurité. L'inclusion, je pense que c'est un élément important. Quand on dit inclusion, c'est un service qui doit être accessible pour tout le monde, pour tous les operating systems de téléphone mobile, partout dans le monde. Et surtout, ça ouvre des nouveaux usages. La capacité pour vous de envoyer une clé à travers votre téléphone mobile à un tiers à distance, ça c'est essentiel. Et par rapport à ce que vous disiez, on est complètement dans l'étape 2. Téléphone, produit le plus personnel. Quand il va ouvrir la voiture saura que c'est moi et pas quelqu'un d'autre. Donc, si on veut reproduire tout l'environnement numérique des services qui sont propres à moi, l'expérience de conduite, la position du siège, la position du volant, le téléphone est un premier élément d'authentification simple.
Et alors demain, on va aller encore plus loin. On paye déjà, par exemple, les péages avec sa voiture, mais on va pouvoir payer encore plus de choses, et notamment la voiture va quasiment devenir un moyen de paiement pour demain.
Je pense qu'on a bien traduit dans la première partie avec quand on parle d'écosystème, de services, d'applications, il y a un enjeu majeur, c'est comment tout ça est mis à disposition et comment tout ça se monétise de façon simple. L'ambition qu'on s'est donnée quand on a commencé à travailler sur ce genre de solution était assez directe, c'est quand vous allez payer votre parking, quand vous allez payer votre péage, quand vous allez payer votre essence ou votre charge électrique, vous devez pouvoir le faire depuis votre cockpit dans la voiture, en un clic. Vous n'avez pas besoin de chercher votre carte bleue ou quoi que ce soit au fond de votre sac.
Ça, c'est pratique, oui.
Voilà, c'est vraiment en un clic. Et ça s'appuie sur des éléments et des savoir-faire qui sont critiques. Hein. Aujourd'hui, DEMIA travaille à peu plus de 1000 banques dans le monde. Notre métier, ça va être vraiment de proposer à nos partenaires et à nos clients la même expérience utilisateur, que ce soit à Paris, New York, Barcelone, le one click. Mais derrière, c'est nous qui allons connecter tout l'écosystème bancaire avec ça. Et une fois qu'on a ça en place, et encore une fois, ça a été dit juste avant, on va pouvoir embarquer dans le cockpit véhicule tout un nouveau, je dirais une nouvelle typologie de fournisseurs de contenu, de fournisseurs de services qui vont pouvoir apporter une expérience utilisateur au conducteur, mais pas que. On a souvent dans la voiture focalisé sur le conducteur. Oublions pas les autres personnes qui sont à l'intérieur du véhicule. Et là, on va pouvoir fournir un tas de contenus supplémentaires.
Laurence, vous travaillez aussi, j'imagine, sur toutes ces évolutions. Je vous voyais acquiescer à ce que nous disait Philippe de Oliveira.
Oui, parce que, comme je disais, la vie ne s'arrête pas quand tu rentres dans une voiture. En fait, la vie continue et la fluidité, c'est super important. On appelle ça chez nous Humanized Technologies. En fait, on cherche des technologies pas pour la technologie, mais vraiment pour rendre la vie plus fluide. Et moi, je suis le premier à apprécier si la voiture me dit OK, vous rentrez dans un parking, est-ce que vous voulez qu'on se gare dans la même position que la dernière fois? Oh, by the way, il y a un cinéma ici, est-ce que vous êtes intéressé à un billet? Et puis, tu peux payer à travers l'écran. En fait, il faut qu'on évite de doubler tous les écrans et tous les cerveaux, un cerveau dans la voiture, un cerveau dans le smartphone, un cerveau dans ton iWatch ou quoi que ce soit. Si on est futé, on essaye de connecter tout ça ensemble pour qu'on puisse avoir aussi une solution qui est beaucoup plus abordable au lieu de répliquer tout ça et créer une abundance of parts and pieces. Alors, moi, je crois beaucoup à la connexion, créer un écosystème qui va être plus fluide et aussi finalement moins cher et va gagner du temps et du fric.
Est-ce que vous avez des questions pour Laurence et Philippe? Oui, alors ici, est-ce qu'on peut faire passer un micro, s'il vous plaît? Merci. Alors.
C'est de l'autre côté.
C'est là-bas, c'est oui, de l'autre côté. Merci beaucoup.
Thanks for the great discussion. Cristiana Ceraldi from ST Microelectronics. I have a question. I think that autonomous vehicles is supposed to accelerate the shift from I own my car to I get a mobility service. So how can you align this hyper-personalization of the car to a car that's probably used by many people or that it's given into a car sharing way, or so I'd just like to hear your thoughts about that. Thanks.
Yeah, I think in terms of the idea behind autonomous vehicles is also indeed that a car is only used 5% of the day, on average. So 95% of the day the car is sitting still, parked somewhere, and the idea of autonomous driving is that you could also borrow it or have it used by other people. I think we do need dedicated cars for this. It's hard to imagine people always borrowing their personal vehicle. Sometimes I feel a car is like a pet, and you don't lend your cat or your dog to somebody else. I mean, it's a very personal thing. Unless we find a way that you know who you're lending it to, that they have a good reputation, maybe a system like Airbnb, you are a good client, and maybe this gives you confidence. So I think there is a confidence issue that you need to overcome in order to be able to allow your car to be used for many uses. But the idea is definitely good. Once more, there is an efficiency in having things used by multiple people if it serves a purpose. We're doing this in a different way, completely different way by energy. Our electric vehicles have now vehicle-to-grid opportunities. You can give back energy to the grid. We have vehicle-to-life, what we call V2L capabilities, so you can plug in your barbecue or your e-bike into a Renault 5. So we are looking for ways, in fact, to create this multifunctional, multimodal object. And again, this is very exciting for me because the car always used to be an individual isolated object, and now it's becoming part of a big family. And autonomous driving, connectivity are all going to help us to get there.
If I may add one point, I think it's also part of when we discuss about phone as a key. It should be a huge contributor on this portability. When you express the, I would say, autonomous vehicle or the car sharing industry, there's nothing worse to be in a car which doesn't know you at all. And phone as a key, as we see, could be a trigger to allow this portability from a car A to car B. Always, when I take the comparison with the smartphone, I think one of the big success of this industry is how simple it is to move from a phone A to a phone B when you remain in the same ecosystem.
So thank you very much. Thank you both of you. Merci beaucoup à tous les deux. On peut les applaudir. Merci.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. On va passer à notre prochaine table ronde. We are going to talk about what organizational structure should be adopted to establish software leadership in the automotive industry, because cars have become through technological products, and with the development of software-defined vehicles, the boundaries between the automotive and technology industries are blurring. We are going to talk about this topic with Roman Rock, Managing Director and Partner PAYSAGE. Thank you. Thank you for coming. We are pleased to have with us Taha Kavan, Vice President of Software and Ecosystem in Forvia. And Patrick Benamar is going to be with us. He's Vice President Learning and Development, Renault Group. So, Roman, let's start with you. Before talking about organization and skills, I would like you to tell us why software is becoming more important today. Is it because more than half of the value of the car comes from software? I think it's an explanation.
Yes, indeed. So when you think about the future of automotive, you have to imagine that 90% of the differentiating features in a car tomorrow will be software-based. So it's a massive share of the perceived value of the car. So what software shapes in a car is how the car interacts with the environment through ADAS functionalities, through energy management and battery system. And software also shapes how the user, the driver, interacts with the car itself through what we call bionic interior, which includes the screens, the connected services, as well as the immersive lights and moves in the car. So that's a massive share of the value. Today, it accounts for $4 kilodolars per car in supplier value, and we assess that it's going to double in the next 10 years, reaching $10 kilodolars per car in supplier value, and reaching 30% of the value of the car itself. So it's a massive challenge for the automakers and the suppliers to go in this direction, to transition to a software-focused organization. And for them, it means that they need to build scale, because scale is going to be the number one thing that will allow profitable leadership and sustainable leadership in software for those automakers. So this scale has 3 dimensions, basically. Scale in product, scale in ecosystem, scale in organization. In terms of scaling the product, it's about how automakers and suppliers can platformize their software development effort in order to sustain different versions of the software, sustain evolutions, over-the-air updates, and management of the technical debt while keeping costs under control. So that's scale on product. Then scale on ecosystem, which is about how to shape the standards in the industry regarding the SDV components. And the third one is scale through organization, because of course it's easier for bigger organizations to invest and develop very specific talents, very specific skills. And it's also easier for them to attract and retain those talents. And that's what we are going to talk about. Of course, it comes with challenges. There is a triple challenge around structure, the organization, around culture, and around talent strategy. So I think we are going to touch those topics. Regarding organization, it's going to be about how you have different operating models that coexist between the traditional hardware part and the software part of the organization. We are going to talk about how you can attract, retain, upskill those software talents, and also about culture and how do you get your leaders equipped to inspire those software talents and to infuse in the organization new and more agile ways of working.
Tara Kavan, you are Vice President of Software and Ecosystem in Forvia, but you launched a startup that was bought by Forvia, and so now you manage 4 startups. Can you tell us how all that happened?
Oh, how much time do we have? Hi, everyone. Absolutely. First, it's an honor to be here. Good to see you all. How it happened in a nutshell, I'm an entrepreneur. Even today,
Yes.
I'm very fully aware that I'm not a big corporation person, and on a daily basis, I'm being reminded of that because it's difficult for me. It's 2 switches. I switched from software to a more manufacturing company, and I switched from startups to a very big corporation.
It's a big change.
Yes, yes. So it's around 4.5 years I'm with Forvia. We have 4 niches, I would say. So it's true acquisition that we are focusing on these different niches, but it's startups that are expert in image processing and HMI. For displays, we have a startup which is focused on audio and noise cancellation, another one on lighting, and another one on apps and services and everything, which is cloud services, basically. And we are very much focusing on those niches, and we don't want to, as Roman was saying, is software is a very big field. For people who come from software domain, my background is software, software is a huge stack, and you cannot be a player. It's very difficult, I think, for automotive to be a player on every layer of the stack. We need to choose as players, even it's OEM or tier 1, which layer we want to focus on. Otherwise, it can be very broad, and we cannot build Apple from scratch or become Google or Amazon, which is approaches that has been taken in automotive also. So my strong belief is we need to really know who we are as any of the OEMs or tier 1 or tier 2 in automotive, and what niche we want to have and what value we want to bring. As Roman was saying, there are a lot of areas. You have autonomous driving, and then in autonomous driving, you have so many layers of software from the operating system up to the application layer that you could contribute in. And then pick another area, user experience, displays, audio, personal assistant. So any of these, there's so much complex ecosystem that would be in play. And I think this is not coming very naturally to automotive. So this is something that we are still learning in automotive on how we build these layers of the software stack and where to operate in. So how it happens is through acquisitions, at least in our company, and through keeping the startups actually very lean and still very much operated as startup. So the reason maybe I'm in charge and I'm in this position is because I have entrepreneurial background, and we want to keep it still a bit shielded from the heavy manufacturing processes and let it live as a startup that hopefully become a scale-up.
Patrick Benamar, so the place of software in the car has become very important. What do you think about that?
Thank you. I'd be happy to be with you tonight. The role of software is really important because it's really connected to the evolution of the car and the fact that the car is now electrified. So it opens a lot of opportunities, because when you design a car now, you start with a software to design the car and to create a platform that would be adapted to the usage. And also, we had the chance to see Lawrence just before on the nice design that you are going to procure to give to the customer. So I think the idea is that instead of having, I would say, an engine and the structure of the car, which was more linked on the platform and the technologies you were using, now you start from the software, you build the hardware, and then you create the car around. So it's very different from what we had in the past. And then also the organization of the projects, the way you design the car, the way you associate and you collaborate with partners is also completely changing, which is really new. And one important fact is that the role of collaboration between the partners and the capacity to bring a product which will be valued by the customer is changing the rules of cooperation and generating also more opportunities to develop innovative and personalized solutions rather than we had in the past when you had one car, you design the car, you build the car, you sell it to the customer. Once it's sold, it's over. You cannot change anything except if you tune your car. With the software, you can tune the car and adapt the car, even if you want to change the usage, if you want to improve your battery capacity, for example, you can do it during the course of the life of the car, which is really a big change for our industry.
So, Roman, there are many differences between software and hardware, and so sometimes it's difficult to work together because they don't have the same metric, the same cycle, because for hardware it's about 5 years and software is about 6 months, so it's really very different.
Yes, or 6 weeks exactly. So,
or 6 weeks.
No, or 6 months. I mean, for bigger releases. But it's absolutely true that the challenge for companies who are thinking about their how they want to organize for software is that this organization not only needs to be scalable and to be able to evolve over time, but also it should be multi-mode, meaning that it should allow the coexistence of different operating models, different cycle times, as you mentioned. So typically the traditional auto manufacturing part, which evolves on cycles of 3 years to develop the car, with a strong focus on safety, on development milestone, industrialization, validations, and on the other end, the software part, which evolves on much shorter cycles, 6 months typically, and which is focused on life cycle management and over-the-air update, as you mentioned, Patrick. As a consultant, we see a lot of reactions from our clients, from automakers, suppliers, on how they want to organize their operations to cope with that. Maybe 3 things that we can zoom on today. First is how they set up dedicated business units. Second is how they organize those units to be able to work smoothly with their ecosystem. And third is how they operate in a more agile way, like in a typical Tesla model. So, first one is that usually the companies who organize for software, they would set up dedicated business unit dedicated to software. So it's what Volkswagen did with Cariad, setting up a dedicated unit with investing in recruiting 10,000 software engineers in this business unit. Other companies like Ford or Renault, they would couple that with EV, so software and EV units, which we see with Ford E or with Renault Ampere. And others go for incubation mode, developing startups and helping them scale in the organization. Whatever the model, those units need to be able to work with the ecosystem. We mentioned that to reach more scale, automakers and suppliers look for co-development with software companies or companies in their ecosystem at each layer. So it's true for sensors, for hardware, yes, exactly, for operating systems, for APIs. And that's why usually we see a layered organization that mirrors the layers of the architecture in order to be open to working with different parts of the ecosystem at some point in software development. And last but not least, more agile operating models. So Tesla was pioneering different models that are, let's say, more flat structure, allowing faster decision making, multifunctional teams where you mix software people with system people and industrialization people, as well as a much more incremental way of developing the car and the software, MVP oriented and much more value driven, trying to start with the features that are most valued by the customer. So it's typically what we call agile in system development. And now we see not only the Tesla or the Lucid of this world working like that, we also see more traditional OEMs or tier ones adopting this new way of working when it comes to software and how software can be integrated in a car system.
Tara, we'd like to hear you about organizational structures and talent management, because there are those who organize themselves to have a platform team, and some others prefer to incubate startups. What do you think is the best?
collectively, we are still trying to figure it out. I wish I knew. That will be the $1 million question. You talked about Tesla. It's interesting because in automotive, we see Tesla as the pioneer, and then Tesla looks up to Google and Apple and Amazon and Microsoft. And I come from that world. I come from a consumer world, which is, it's the way we were educated at school, that we need to be agile. So agile methodology versus waterfall. And I will get to the organization. Trust me, I'm getting there.
Thank you.
It's very natural to a software developer, someone who is software trained at school, to think agile. We are now taught Scrum Master. We are taught daily Scrums and 2 weeks sprints at school for software people. So I don't think we need to reteach them when they join the organization. They know what is agile and they can understand what is waterfall. And I believe the biggest challenge I feel as a more newcomer into automotive is that we try to reinvent the wheel, and we try so much in automotive to become Apple, Google, or Tesla. From my perspective, the answer is somewhere in between. We cannot be Google. We cannot retain talents and attract talents from Google and Apple and Microsoft. And if we get them, we will lose them in 6 months. And we cannot stay as traditional manufacturing. But it can be something in the middle to let the coexistence of the waterfall, which still needs to build the safe car, because at the end the car needs to be safe, right? No matter how much we want to have fun entertainment, we still need the safety. And we need the coexistence of the waterfall and agile. We need the coexistence of the manufacturing and software. And to me, the answer is incubation, actually closeness. So I believe the organizations who are further departing these two elements, contradictory parts, from each other, would have a harder time to then bring them back, getting them work together. I believe a coexisting approach, like the incubator approach that Forvia has, would allow the software to be closer to business and in the center and in the DNA of the design and the business, as you mentioned. So if you're designing, your designer cannot continue doing what they were doing, ignoring what the software unit is doing. So I believe there should be an incubation approach for the smaller companies who are starting with software. And then as you grow, the good thing about software is you don't need to build the plants. You can be very much breathing back and forth the size based on the business, and that's something we are underestimating. You don't need to staff 10,000 people for software to fly. You can grow it as the business grows. I believe that would be probably, the answer is somewhere in the middle, not completely to the right or the left.
Patrick, do you agree with Tara?
Yes, it's interesting because Tara was mentioning that we cannot really copy the big players, but we can take inspiration and cooperate with them. So, for example, for a long period of time, Renault has partnered with Google, and we try to define what could be brought by a corporation. We know the automotive product, and Google has a very big experience in terms of customer approach, services to be provided. So when we think to the car as a product, it's interesting to have the benefits from the experience of Google and to create this connection to the user while putting the systems in the car. So you get the maximum benefit from the experience of Google, and you have the quality and the safety of the product which is brought by Renault, and we know how to make safe cars. So I think the question of the cooperation is very key, because if you associate people taking the best from each offer, you get a product which is probably at the highest level you could get, rather than investing to try to copy and at the end finding that your product is so-so and certainly not appreciated the same way by the customer.
Roman, there are new skills related to software. So how you must anticipate the need in skill, attract people organically or by buying software companies. What do you do presently?
Yes, so what we see is that software transition requires a big reshape of the whole talent strategy, because it comes with several challenges. I will talk about 4 of them. First, software transition comes with new skills. So you have to be able to anticipate what are those skills and to be able to assess them in your existing talent pool and to be able to spot them in external talent pools. Second is around talent acquisition and how fierce the competition is, not only within the automotive industry, but also against tech giants, Apple and Google and the likes. Number 3 challenge is around how can you reshape your EVP to fit the needs of these software talents. Typically, they have very different expectations in terms of compensation and benefits, in terms of flexibility at work, agile ways of working. And number 4 is around upskilling. So how do you develop the upskilling muscle to be able to upskill your internal pools? Because we know that the answer to software transition is not only in talent acquisition, and is not only about attracting external talent. It's also about how you bring your existing talent pool, your existing engineers to the next set of skills. So if I can develop a few points around number 1, around new skills, and Patrick, I'm sure you will have a lot to say about that. So new skills, what we see is that software comes with cyber security challenges, with AI, new ways of working, with cloud engineering. So all of these are new skills that need to be developed. Also, we see that we need more of the same skills or more end-to-end. Typically, we expect from engineers to have a more system approach, so having a view on the end-to-end system, not only during development, but also during life cycle management, over-the-air evolutions. We also expect that software engineers also knows how to validate that the hardware responds correctly to the software that has been developed. So more end-to-end, more system view, which needs a very deep upskilling or sometimes reskilling of the engineering population at automakers and suppliers. Maybe a few words about EVP, employee value proposition. What we observe is that even if retaining talent is always among top 3 priorities for all auto executives, on the other side, you see that millennial talents are 10 or 15 points less likely to recommend their employer to their friend or to other people. So 10 points less than the previous generation. So there is a big gap, and it's a huge challenge in terms of retention and how the EVP should be adapted to retain those talents.
You don't want to even talk about Gen Z, huh?
Ah, no,
you
no.
keep it as millennials.
Only, yes. And so, what do you think, Patrick, about that? What she explained? Because do you attract the software talents? You have to do. You know where to find these software talents for a software developer. Perhaps the first idea is not to go to Renault. So how do you do?
For sure, their first idea is not to go to Renault. They prefer to go to Google or some other companies. So the question is exactly what you mentioned, Roman, about the way you connect to the people. And I think this is why it's important to explain what we do in the car and to understand that you have software development roles which are very interesting in the automotive industry, because you are able to design solutions which are focused on the user. And most of the software developers, they want to do something which is not done by somebody else before. And if possible, in an object which is visible by others. And the car is like that.
Yes.
So if I can make something in a car which is visible by the big numbers, because my invention will be visible, or my contribution will be more visible, it's attractive for me. Rather than being in the big world of digital where I will do something for Google, but nobody will see it. So I think there is a question of explaining what a software developer does in our organization, how what he or she is doing could be visible and impacting. And I think this is something which is very interesting, is most of the software developers are much more conscious about the need to do something for the planet.
Yes.
And when you talk about, we are making electric cars, where we need software developers because the technology is based on your knowledge, some of them said, might be more useful to be in this company than in others, where maybe my impact on the planet will be more limited. So I think it's also a greater conscience of what they could do with their knowledge, more or less to change the lives of the others and to influence the planet. And we see people who have a high level of motivation to join our industry to make it change. So insisting on the capacity they will have in this new organization like we have created with Ampere to change things materially. Yes, you will design the functionalities which will be in the car of tomorrow's, and it's not in 10 years. You will see it in 2 or 3 years in the new cars. It will be real. I think they will be very proud of that. So we have to develop this willingness to join and to change things, and not so many car makers are really able to do that. Tesla was very good at doing that, but as it was a fully agile organization, they burnt a lot of resources because they felt it was too hard, so they left. In our organization, it's more adapted because people could go through the software and then move to another position in the organization once they acquired, I would say, the knowledge about the automotive world. And I think you're very good. I have a good example on my left. So
yes.
Tara could speak about her experience.
And so
we need to talk about your Google partnership afterwards.
Yes, so you establish agreements, for instance, with software development schools like EPITA, and so you have also an university?
Yes, with Renault University, we have built partnership with software schools and software engineering schools in order to be able to design curriculum which are also adapted and fitted to the automotive world. We have also done the same thing for cybersecurity because the cybersecurity in the car is really relevant. We did also that for artificial intelligence. And the idea is to work with engineering school to give the possibility to develop people, but also for our employees to get certifications through this partnership. And it's also an opportunity for people who are, for example, software developers to become cybersecurity architects, for example, and to have the possibility to change role in the company and also to promote them to new roles and to change their view of the organization and to retain them.
And Tara, what is your position about talents? What do you think you have to do?
A lot. This is a long way. For talent, I agree with both of my co-panelists, but one thing I want to add is challenge. You know, the fact that automotive is newer in software and in defining what should be the user experience in the cockpit. So that's a new domain which could attract a lot of software talent. And as Roman was saying, you know, there is software people are educated and learn to look at the system, so they understand their software needs to work on a hardware, you know. So this is very natural for them, and I think it would fit faster than they expect in an environment which is welcoming them. And automotive now, by nature of being a little bit behind, is actually very welcoming to software people, and it is challenging, and it's defining some new activities, as you mentioned. So I think these are the points we need to focus on. And then on the other side, the type of talent that would like to work in Amazon, let's say, or Google and Apple is actually probably not the type of talent that automotive needs. So of course there's an overlap, but that's also, I think automotive needs to be cautious that it's not just headhunting just to bring software people. There are people with particular passion and interest that would be better suiting this environment, to learn the environment and to retain and to add the value that automotive needs.
And Patrick Benama, at Renault, you favor also trainings and internal mobility thanks to the predictive management of employment and skills. That's what you do?
It's important also to attract people who are not native software developers to software. And I think it's also interesting in our companies because we cannot find on the market all the talent we need. But we have people who are engineers. We have people who also like to develop by themselves. I remember once I received an email from one of our employees. He was in a garage, and he wrote to me to say, okay, I'm a big fan of development. I do it all my weekends, and my dream is to become a software developer. And I said, why didn't you apply to any position? He said, I'm in a garage. I said, okay, I will put you in contact with the recruitment team and you'll have discussion. And now he's working for Renault Digital, one of our subsidiaries dedicated to software. And he did that because his motivation during the weekends was to learn. But his level in terms of software was, wow. And the guy done by himself. So I think that a lot of people could learn also by themselves, or if they are motivated by the company because it's part of an upskilling or a reskilling program, they can learn. Software is not magic, you can learn. And people learn at school. So if you have the good environment with people who are helping them to progress and to develop, really you can also attract people to do that. And it's the same thing with data. You can develop internally data analysts, you can develop cyber architect if you have the possibility to train them in good conditions.
Tara, you don't agree?
Partially, I agree. And partially because there are those people who are going to step up absolutely if you provide the environment. But at the end, on the other hand, I think we are late in automotive. We don't have so much time to, we need to be looking at every aspect. We need to keep our eyes open. As you said, partnerships, bringing people from the ecosystem, partners and companies we work with, from universities, but also making sure that we change a little bit the mindset of the manufacturing with our every level of our leadership so that we are accommodating longer term those people and talent that needs to stay with us. Simple working, remote working. You know, all the software companies post-COVID have that, and
you have to retain people.
And it's still a topic in automotive. I'm shocked that it's still a topic in our companies. I understand it because then you cannot provide that flexibility to your manufacturing side, and then it becomes an unfair. So it's a big equation to solve. But yeah, I think we still need to also do the push to adapt to this new talent and their requirement.
But that's why flexibility is not in your DNA?
Depends. When you are working in industry, you have to be flexible and you have to have polyvalence in your teams. So I think it depends on the culture of the company. If we look at what we have done in Renault in the last years, we were probably the first company who was working for having the possibility for people to work at distance. And it's still something which is valued by the candidates who join us because they can have the possibility to work from home. Of course, it's not 5 days per week. No. So we ask them to come at least 2 or 3 days per week, but they have this possibility. And I think it's a good balance because people who are joining us said, okay, it's an automotive company, but it's a tech company also. So we have this flexibility which is broad because we are conscious that we need to make efforts to attract this talent and to give them an environment which is different. But at the end of the day, okay, we understand that when you are working as a blue collar in the plant, you cannot work from home. It's obvious. So flexibility is something which is very much in our values, and agility is really important because we also have to cope with the fast change we are living in the automotive industry.
Yes, Roman, it's very important to retain talent, flexibility, remote working, employer value proposal, fairly attractive remuneration also is very important.
Yes, the whole EVP plays to retain software talent. Also, another thing is about the cultural shift and how the leaders can embrace this change. And what we observe at traditional automakers like Ford or even others like Lucid or Tesla is that half of their leadership team comes from tech companies, from Apple, from Google. So it's approximately a 50-50 from the auto world and from the tech world. So if you want this cultural shift, and if you want also your EVP to evolve, you need to bring in some people with different mindsets. And you need also to leave a bit of independence to those software units. For example, I think BMW opened a hub in the Silicon Valley, and they had a lot of freedom on how to set up the compensation package, on how to set up the flexibility, how mentorship was organized, and so on. Maybe another thing that is related to what we discussed about learning organization, it's a very difficult topic to have this always ongoing upskilling, reskilling muscle functioning in the organization. And since here we talk about the future of automotive, I'm convinced that AI or Gen AI can help increase the time to autonomy and can really help on this learning part. Typically in coding or software, we see, at Renault, at Forvia, you are using GitHub Copilot to automate the code, to automate code documentation and so on. And we also see companies who are thinking about how to use agents to empower the engineers and to coach them on domain-specific knowledge or company-specific knowledge. And I'm sure in the future, those agents will help increase the autonomy, increase also the flexibility on how we can move talent from one skill or one domain to another.
So do you have questions for Roman, Tara and Patrick, perhaps? Alors, on va vous apporter un micro, merci.
Hi, and thank you. Hi, nice to meet you again, Tara. Maybe one topic that was not discussed was the topic of diversity. We know that women are 33% of purchases, 40% of users, but only represent 25% of the automotive employees, and even less so in the software part. What is your view on diversity in the software part of automotive?
We are lucky for this panel. We have two women.
Yeah, first one.
You have 3/4, yes, I know. You are a minority. How do you feel? Tell us.
Very well.
Thank you for the question. I'm a big fan of diversity and every type of it. So you mentioned the gender diversity. All my life I've been a sweet spot for so many different diversities. I've always been an immigrant. I've been usually the youngest. Now I'm getting older. Feels much better when you're not the youngest in the room to be attacked. And I've been usually the only woman. So I'm very much used to it, and I am very cautious of breaking it when I feel it in the environment. But automotive is a very male-dominated industry, and that's something that we all know about. And then we talk about software, we talk about new activities, we talk about China becoming stronger and stronger. So how much do we know as Europe manufacturing companies about China, about their culture, about the user experience, about the cars there, about a lot of things. So diversity in every aspect of it. I'm a big believer that brings value, and I think there are studies that shows it's around 40%, the companies which are more diverse, they can have around 40% better business metrics and KPIs achieved. How to do it is, I think, the big question. Sometimes we force it by KPIs, and that could backfire. I'm one of those that believe sometimes if you do something for the KPI, you could actually promote the wrong person, and then it's defeating the whole purpose. It's a very good question. I think we need more people to openly walk the talk, to not just talk about it, not to have KPIs, but to actually do it on daily basis, not only for KPIs and for bonuses that we want to achieve, but also to do it really for the sake of the business, because we believe it's better for the business. And then when we are up, we need to send the elevator down for the rest of the newcomers and the new generation to move up the ladders. I think automotive, again, might be one of the industries which is putting cautious effort on this, but is probably a bit behind. And then in Europe, I think we are a little bit behind versus Asia. I've lived in 3 continents, 4 different countries, and I believe China, India, some of the Middle Eastern countries that we don't believe they are much better in gender diversity, they are actually much further ahead in gender diversity versus us, and also North America is behind. We have good models to look at and try to learn and adapt, I believe.
Do we have another question? Yes. Merci.
So we see a number of companies, notably in the automotive industry, who are trying to locate their software developers in lower cost countries. And I wanted to know what's your view on looking for, cost per hour, versus having, maybe smaller teams, higher productivity, closer to the customers and to the other rest of the organization?
Who are you asking? Who wants to? Roman, perhaps?
Yes. On the topic of talent pools, what we observe in the industry is that when it comes to this question of choosing the right talent pool, it's not only about cost of labor, of course. You have to take into account many different criteria, typically in terms of intrinsic attractiveness of the talent pool, and in terms of what is your company right to win in this talent pool, and how attractive is your brand and your company in this talent pool. So typically on the intrinsic attractiveness criteria, of course it's about cost, but most of all it's about can you find the right talents in this talent pool. Typically in India or Romania there are great software talent pools. We talked earlier about Canada for AI and so on. So where are the schools and the academics that allow you to feed a great talent pool? And also you need to think about attrition, because in some specific talent pools like Poland or Romania, where a lot of auto players went in the past years, there is more than 30% attrition. And therefore the cost for you to recruit and retain people is much higher, and the business case might not be as good as you think. So this criteria, and also the right to win of your company, the strength of your brand and the attractiveness as an employer in this pool is important, because it's also your ability to attract the best when you go to schools.
Perhaps last question. Thanks.
You'll tell this is a very 2014 question. But back in the days when the telco industry needed some software developer very badly, Xavier Nel had this very good idea of building 42, the school, with different pedagogy, opening to others and so on. I have a sense that the automotive industry right now is in the same position, deeply and badly needing new talents to join at scale with the volume. Is a new 42 for automotive a good idea for us or not?
Who wants to respond?
I'm not sure the 42 model would work in the automotive industry, because the difficulties when you code in the automotive industry, you have to know some elements which are really important for the reasons of safety at the end. So I'm not sure the model could work. But the learning by practicing model, of course, will work. So I would say it's not really 42. It's maybe 43 or 52 or whatever. But the model of learning by doing is really, I think, a good approach for automotive.
Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. On va passer maintenant donc à notre prochaine table ronde, parler de la façon dont on peut dessiner une nouvelle norme industrielle en matière de conception et d'ingénierie automobile. Du crayon à la commercialisation en 20 mois, c'est le nouveau challenge. C'est vrai que l'optimisation du développement des véhicules, la réduction du temps de mise sur le marché imposent aujourd'hui la mise en place de nouvelles normes industrielles. Et bien sûr, l'IA joue un rôle important. On va en parler maintenant avec mes intervenants. J'ai le plaisir d'appeler sur scène Christophe Leligné, vice-président R&D Group de Valeo. Merci de l'applaudir. Sabine Calvo sera également avec nous. Elle est directrice de la performance, des validations et de l'accélération digitale à l'ingénierie du groupe Renault. Merci d'applaudir Sabine. Et on a le plaisir d'avoir avec nous Michael Lemoilic, directeur du centre d'expertise R&D pour le BCG, le Boston Consulting Group. Alors c'est vrai que les temps de mise sur le marché se raccourcissent de plus en plus, comme on dit, entre le crayon et la commercialisation. Il y avait jusque-là 3 à 4 ans. Aujourd'hui, les Chinois, eux, ils développent des voitures extrêmement rapidement. C'est 18 à 24 mois. Sabine Calvo, il y a une vraie accélération aujourd'hui. C'est ce que vous constatez vous aussi?
Oui, en effet. Hein, on voit effectivement cette accélération. Alors, on va dire, elle n'est pas nouvelle. Elle s'accélère, cette accélération, donc si on peut dire comme ça. Et on l'explique, je pense que vous le savez tous, hein, donc il y a plusieurs raisons à ça. Donc la première raison, c'est on est dans une industrie automobile qui vit quand même une profonde mutation. Hein. Je pense qu'on n'a jamais connu une aussi...
On l'a beaucoup dit cet après-midi,
voilà,
hein, une révolution, on va dire.
Une révolution,
ouais.
donc c'est sûr. Cette révolution, elle est liée en particulier à la transition énergétique qu'il faut faire, enfin la transition technologique, hein, que ce soit l'électrification, que ce soit les technologies logicielles qui sont embarquées dans nos véhicules. Et quand on rajoute à ça, évidemment, l'accélération digitale avec l'intelligence artificielle, hein, qui va révolutionner, on va dire, tous nos process, mais qui révolutionne aussi nos modèles d'apprentissage, nos modèles de compétences. Donc ça, c'est un premier point. Ensuite, il y a aussi les attentes clients qui du coup évoluent, qui sont différentes, qui évoluent plus vite. Donc ces technologies qui évoluent aussi à un rythme beaucoup plus soutenu que par le passé, qui sont embarquées dans nos véhicules, nous imposent aussi de revoir complètement notre process pour qu'on soit dans un cycle de renouvellement qui soit compatible. Et en parallèle de ça, évidemment, on fait face, en tout cas l'industrie automobile telle qu'on la connaît en Europe, en Amérique du Nord, on fait face à de nouveaux entrants, on fait face à une concurrence très très forte, et en particulier avec les constructeurs chinois, hein, qui arrivent alors avec la maîtrise de la technologie électrique, sur lequel il faut qu'on apprenne, mais aussi qui arrivent avec des process qui sont forcément nativement adaptés à cette accélération. Voilà, donc tout ça fait qu'il faut qu'on soit dans un rythme encore plus soutenu. Alors Renault, je pense qu'on s'y est préparé, hein, donc on a fait déjà un premier step d'accélération il n'y a pas si longtemps que ça. On est passé de développement de 4 ans à 3 ans effectivement en moyenne. Donc les véhicules qui sont les Clio ou même Austral, Espace sont des véhicules qui ont été développés en 4 ans, hein, dans le référentiel précédent. Les véhicules qui sont exposés aujourd'hui, qui sortent maintenant, la R5, le Forever, le Duster, enfin toute notre gamme Renaulution que Luca De Meo a développé, on l'a développé en 3 ans. Et le second step, Luca De Meo m'a confié la mission de le mettre en œuvre, c'est-à-dire gagner encore un an. Donc fin d'année dernière, on a lancé le programme. Donc gagner encore un an et aller chercher justement ces temps de développement en moyenne en 2 ans. Donc il faut qu'on le fasse et tous les projets qui partent là sont sur cette logique-là. Donc l'accélération elle est là, oui, effectivement.
Christophe, alors pour vous, chez Valeo, vous travaillez à la fois avec des Français, j'ai dit les temps de mise sur le marché, puis avec des Chinois aussi, où c'est beaucoup plus rapide. Donc vous êtes déjà dans cette sorte de schizophrénie en quelque sorte.
Tout à fait. Alors Valeo est présent dans 29 pays. Et donc, on est heureux de pouvoir travailler avec beaucoup de constructeurs en Chine, en Europe, aux États-Unis. Et on se dit être vraiment local pour local. Donc, européen en Europe, américain aux États-Unis et puis chinois en Chine. On a beaucoup d'équipes en Chine. On a un tiers de nos effectifs qui sont localisés en Chine pour développer avec les constructeurs chinois ou les transplants, bien entendu, avec qui on a commencé il y a bien longtemps. Et c'est clair qu'aujourd'hui, on a cette capacité de pouvoir développer nos produits selon les rythmes européens en Europe, américains aux États-Unis et puis chinois. Alors, qu'est-ce qui est différent? C'est la question. Alors, ce qui est différent, c'est déjà l'approche, parce que c'est beaucoup des gens qui viennent quelque part du consumer, donc qui n'ont pas des legacy de procédures, de standards qu'on a pu accumuler en Europe, et nous y compris, hein, en tant que Valeo, on a beaucoup de standards qui ont été bâtis sur l'expérience, sur les problèmes. On a aussi des problèmes, on a eu des problèmes, on a accumulé beaucoup de standards. Les Chinois, beaucoup moins. Donc ils sont moins, je dirais, dans un carcan de règles.
Moins dans la procédure, finalement.
Moins dans la procédure que nous.
Et donc aujourd'hui, on est capable de développer des produits en 12, 15 mois, 18 mois. 12 mois, on a eu des exemples de 12 mois.
C'est le record?
Non, il y a encore. J'ai entendu ce matin de mes collègues chinois qui me parlaient de 9 mois pour sortir un produit. Alors, évidemment, là, on n'est pas du tout dans l'innovation. Mais les Chinois ne sont pas. Enfin, ils sont dans l'innovation tout en n'étant pas dans l'innovation. Je m'explique.
C'est ça qui est compliqué, oui, justement.
Exactement, parce que entre le moment où on démarre le projet à T0 et le moment où on fait le gel du design, il se passe 4 mois. Donc en 4 mois, on n'a pas le temps d'innover. Donc forcément, on va partir sur des standards. Et forcément, avant d'être nommé par nos clients en Chine, il s'est passé des choses. C'est qu'on a besoin d'une grosse intimité avec eux. Donc on construit une intimité bien avant. Et on a des phases de ce qu'on appelle les RFQ, enfin, de pré-RFQ, c'est-à-dire un travail amont où on va travailler avec le client chinois ses specs, les specs du produit, les specs du système, de façon à ce qu'au moment où il va lancer son appel d'offres, le vrai appel d'offres, on est quasiment à un niveau de maturité qui est de 70 à 80% du produit que l'on va faire après. Ensuite, on a une phase d'appel d'offres qui est très courte. Je donne des chiffres un peu moyens, parce qu'on a des plus courts, des plus longs, mais on va dire qu'ils sont capables de prendre des décisions en 3 semaines. Donc ils ont fait le travail en amont avec l'ensemble des fournisseurs pour être capables de décider en 3 semaines.
Et nous, on n'est pas capable. Alors
c'est vrai qu'en Europe, aujourd'hui, on est sur des phases de RFQ qui sont bien plus longues. Mais moi, ça commence à changer, je pense. C'est vrai pour tout le monde. Ensuite, on a 4 mois globalement pour faire le gel de design. Ensuite, on a une phase de réalisation des outillages. Alors, quand on va parler un peu de mécanique, dès qu'on a besoin de lancer des moules ou des outillages, là en Europe, on est plutôt sur des durées d'entre 16 et 20 mois pour sortir des moules d'injection plastique, par exemple. En Chine, on les a en 12 semaines. Donc, encore du temps de gagner. Et puis, ils s'autorisent globalement pas plus de 3 boucles de mise au point derrière. Donc, ils sont assez pragmatiques, finalement. On arrive ensuite, les phases de ce qu'on appelle les DV, donc Design Validation and Product Validation, ils sont quasiment empilés. Donc, il y a très peu de temps entre les deux. Donc, beaucoup de choses en parallèle, ce qui permet d'arriver à une maturité du produit, je dirais, assez vite, parce que, on est parti comme d'un niveau de 70% au début. Donc il reste 30% de maturité à acquérir durant cette phase de développement. C'est globalement ce qui fait la différence.
Alors Michael Lemonique, je pense que vous êtes d'accord forcément avec ce que vous a dit Christophe. Est-ce que vous voulez peut-être compléter justement pour nous détailler un peu plus ce que font les acteurs chinois et pourquoi ça marche si bien en Chine?
Oui, je pense que Christophe a déjà bien décrit l'ensemble de la chaîne. Et je voudrais juste insister sur 3 points, parce qu'il y a la maturation initiale. Et ça, c'est quelque chose que de toute façon, on a tous besoin sur lequel on a tous besoin de progresser. Et c'est vraiment un sujet d'écosystème. Et en particulier, Christophe pointait le lien entre des fournisseurs qui sont un peu comme des partenaires pour le constructeur et le constructeur. Il faut voir aussi que dans l'écosystème chinois, qui est l'écosystème automobile chinois qui s'est construit, il y a un certain nombre d'échanges, il y a comme un certain nombre de standards, et y compris sur le hardware. Sur le hardware, vous avez la Catarc, qui est un organisme semi-public, qui a 838 références comme un catalogue, et puis les fournisseurs ont développé les pièces, et la Catarc les a homologuées en avance, de telle sorte que on puisse les prendre pour faire un développement véhicule, et c'est quelque part sur étagère. Donc on choisit ces pièces sur catalogue, ce qui arrive quand même jamais en Europe, ou très très peu. Et puis, ça veut dire que dans tout ce que vient de décrire Christophe, donc il y a bien cette phase initiale et ces éléments de standardisation. Après, dans la phase de capacité industrielle, c'est quelque chose sur lequel les Chinois investissent et surinvestissent de manière très importante, et on l'a vu dans l'ensemble des industries. Depuis 15 ans, on voit la même courbe où il y a bien on passe par une phase de surdimensionnement des capacités. Pour certaines industries, c'est 3 fois la capacité nécessaire pour le pays. Et c'est ce que mentionnait Christophe quand il dit on est capable d'avoir un moule en 12 semaines. C'est bien parce qu'il y a des capacités qui sont disponibles, qui sont au bon niveau et qui sont là, en fait, qui attendent le coup de fil. Donc ça, c'est très impressionnant. Et y compris aussi au moment où on industrialise et où on fait les phases de maturation, À ce moment-là, il y a les capacités disponibles et tout le monde est prêt à être autour de la voiture pour l'affiner. Donc tout ça, ça veut dire qu'il y a des conditions différentes en Chine, et quand on les applique dans le monde occidental, il y a un vrai sujet de simplification, mais aussi de choix de ce qu'on veut faire. Qu'est-ce qu'on veut faire avec ces 20 mois? Quels sont les line-up qu'on veut construire? Et comment est-ce qu'on évolue? On en a besoin, c'est ce que disait Sabine. On a besoin de renouveler les générations 2 fois plus vite dans ces 12 années, là, depuis 2020, c'est ce qu'on disait, entre 2020 et 2032 par rapport aux 12 années précédentes, parce que les technologies ne sont pas matures. Donc en fait, on ne sait pas quelle technologie adopter 4 ans avant. Et on a besoin d'avoir des voitures qui marchent, des voitures à la bonne qualité, etc. Donc on a besoin d'aller très vite, mais ça veut dire qu'il faut inventer la vie qui va avec.
Et il faut changer les mentalités aussi, hein, parce que c'est pas évident justement de procéder différemment, parce qu'il y a des habitudes qui sont inscrites, donc c'est pas forcément simple de révolutionner tout ça aussi.
Alors si ça s'adresse encore à moi, ça je suis tout à fait d'accord. Mais Sabine, je pense que Sabine peut en parler parce qu'elle est confrontée au sujet pour le porter plus loin.
Oui, clairement. Je dirais, alors c'est une conviction peut-être personnelle, mais je pense que je suis pas la seule à le porter. Hein. Probablement que le plus grand défi que nous avons, nous, dans l'industrie automobile, que ce soit constructeur, que ce soit fournisseur, c'est d'être capable de se réinventer, c'est-à-dire mettre de côté un peu nos croyances. On a quand même une expertise très forte. Hein. Pour Renault, c'est 120 ans d'expérience, donc c'est difficile à remettre en question. Donc demander à des experts ou des collaborateurs qui ont une compétence très forte de dire voilà, ce que tu faisais c'était bien, mais il faut complètement se réinventer et mettre de côté tout ça, c'est le plus grand défi que nous avons en face de nous. Voilà, donc le planning en 2 ans, côté Renault, on a décrit un peu on connaît les leviers qu'on va activer et on va le faire. Et en même temps, ce qui va faire qu'on va réussir, c'est notre conduite du changement qu'on va opérer et qui va devoir toucher l'ensemble des collaborateurs, du haut vers le bas, pour justement accompagner cette transition qui demande beaucoup d'efforts, on va dire intellectuels aussi. Voilà. Donc oui, c'est clairement, probablement, enfin moi je pense que c'est le plus grand défi que nous avons.
J'imagine que vous êtes d'accord, Christophe, bien sûr.
Tout à fait. Et je pense que je reviens sur le côté pragmatique. Et un point, c'est le sur-engineering. Parce que si on veut aller vite, déjà, on n'a pas le temps de se poser de questions. C'est une course. Enfin, vraiment, c'est une course. Vous démarrez un projet, c'est la course jusqu'au démarrage série. Forcément, on va faire face à des problématiques pendant le projet. C'est la vie courante, des problèmes d'intégration dans le véhicule. Il y a plein de sujets. Ils sont pragmatiques, c'est-à-dire ils vont tout de suite faire appel à des experts, tout de suite travailler ensemble, faire juste se rattacher à leurs standards, dire non, on a toujours fait comme ça. Ah non, comme ils l'ont jamais fait comme ça, ils se posent beaucoup plus de questions. Il y a beaucoup plus quelque part d'esprit d'équipe qui font qu'ils prennent la juste décision. Et puis on va voir. Ça va très vite. En septembre, j'ai eu les chiffres avant-hier. 40 nouveaux véhicules ont été lancés en Chine dans le mois de septembre. 40 nouveaux véhicules. Vous imaginez la vitesse à laquelle ça va. Donc aujourd'hui, il y a cette question de surqualité aussi. Nous, on a des spécifications qu'on en reçoit de tous les clients dans le monde. Quand on les compare, on voit qu'il y a quand même beaucoup de différences. Nous, on respecte les cahiers des charges, il n'y a pas de souci, mais quelque part, on peut les discuter. Avec les Chinois, on les discute beaucoup plus facilement. Parce que eux, ils apprennent en même temps, ils se reposent des questions, donc ils se remettent en question beaucoup plus que le reste du monde, qui a ses certitudes et qui sont basées sur des réalités. Hein. Donc c'est exactement ça. C'est extrêmement difficile de se remettre en question. Quand on spécifie un produit pour un nombre de cycles, 1 million de cycles, c'est-à-dire est-ce qu'on est capable que ce produit-là, il est encore bon à 800 000 et c'est juste ce qu'il faut? C'est compliqué. Pour eux, ils n'ont pas cette problématique-là. Donc, ils sont ils vont plus vite.
Du coup, pour vous, Sabine, l'industrie automobile française, elle est quand même relativement en danger. Il y a quelque chose entre la réglementation, la concurrence. Bon, il faut donc, on a bien compris, tout révolutionner en interne. Et d'ailleurs, chez vous, vous voulez aussi vous appuyer sur un partenaire chinois. Donc, il y a des choses qui bougent aussi dans ce sens-là.
Alors, je dirais que, je l'ai dit, on vit quand même, l'industrie automobile est quand même dans une mutation extrêmement forte. Donc, est-ce qu'on est en danger? On est en on est en difficulté. Donc après, toute période, on va dire, difficile ou potentiellement de danger, c'est aussi des périodes c'est des opportunités, de nouveaux challenges à saisir. Je pense que on a la capacité. On a la capacité de relever ces challenges. Je l'ai dit, je pense qu'on a une industrie automobile qui est très forte, qui a une expérience très forte. Alors il faut justement capitaliser sur ses forces. On a un réseau, que ce soit constructeur, partenaire très fort. Donc là, il faut aller chercher, on va dire... il faut mettre de l'intelligence collective dans le système pour justement faire en sorte de relever ces challenges. Les constructeurs s'organisent. Nous-mêmes, côté Renault, on se structure différemment pour faire face à ces ruptures technologiques, pour se focaliser sur des champs de valeur spécifiques. Donc on s'est organisé en business unit et ça, c'est nécessaire. Donc on se réinvente. On a des atouts aussi internes. Chez Renault, par exemple, le jumeau numérique, il est là. Le jumeau numérique du véhicule, il est là. Donc, on a la capacité, justement, de concevoir au numérique de A à Z. Les phases amont sont hyper rapides maintenant parce que très collaboratives entre le design, les ingénieurs de conception, les fournisseurs, qu'il faut effectivement embarquer dans la conception beaucoup plus tôt. Et en parallèle, on a un terrain d'expérimentation qui est la Chine. Il faut reconnaître, ils ont sur la technologie électrique, il faut qu'on apprenne. Sur les process, il faut qu'on apprenne. C'est ce qu'on fait. Il ne faut pas avoir honte ou avoir peur de faire ce que eux ont fait si bien depuis des siècles. Voilà. Donc, en combinant nos atouts, que ce soit interne, que ce soit externe, et ce terrain d'expérimentation, moi je considère que le challenge est compliqué à relever, mais on peut le réussir.
Je suis d'accord, l'industrie automobile française n'est pas morte. Je pense qu'en comparant, je pense vous réagissez très vite, vous et vos confrères. Vous apprenez aussi, je pense que ce que disait Lucas Deméo ce matin, c'est qu'il faut maintenant regarder comment ils font et adapter ce que vous faites, ce que vous faites. J'allais dire, vous commencez à faire, mais vous le faites. Je pense que toute l'industrie européenne est en train de regarder ce qui se passe en Chine, s'adapte. Et on le voit, nous on le ressent, c'est que ça se rapproche. Et avec des petites choses en plus qui est, vous savez faire de l'automobile depuis des centaines d'années. Donc il faut construire là-dessus, il faut évacuer les mauvaises habitudes, prendre de nouvelles qui viennent de là-bas, et la combinaison des deux est un vrai success factor.
Oui, notamment sur la standardisation. Donc eux, ils ont un bon mix en tout ce qui est finalement vendeur aux clients, où ils personnalisent, et puis sur l'invisible, ils standardisent davantage. Donc on peut dire qu'il faut peut-être mettre en place de nouveaux standards de modularité, des produits de partage, d'agilité, de simulation. Et vous travaillez beaucoup là-dessus d'ailleurs, tous autant que vous êtes.
La standardisation, c'est clairement le levier le plus important pour réduire les coûts. C'est ce que font l'ensemble des constructeurs avec les skateboards, ce qu'on appelle donc vraiment la standardisation des châssis, standardisation des composants. Pour nous, c'est exactement la même approche. Donc on essaie de standardiser l'ensemble des composants, des systèmes que l'on développe, voire même standardiser ce qui est unique. Ça, c'est plus compliqué en construisant sur des technologies. L'éclairage est un bon exemple, c'est unique par véhicule, et pourtant, vous avez des choses qui sont standards au travers des marques, au travers des modèles, et c'est ce qui permet de réduire les coûts et de garder l'industrie compétitive. Ensuite, la standardisation va prendre un cran supplémentaire, et je vais passer la main, c'est sur le SDV. Le SDV est aussi un élément extrêmement intéressant pour standardiser, non seulement au travers des plateformes d'un constructeur, mais au travers de plateformes de plusieurs constructeurs. C'est ce qu'on a entendu aussi ce matin.
Justement, donc Michael, on ne sait pas toujours exactement quelle est la bonne technologie qu'il faut choisir, mais on sait en tout cas qu'il va y avoir un rôle croissant de l'IA. On en a beaucoup parlé déjà cet après-midi. Ça va révolutionner davantage d'ailleurs peut-être les métiers d'études que les usines, mais ça change en tout cas complètement pour les cadres. Il y a beaucoup de choses qui évoluent très très vite.
Alors il y a beaucoup de choses qui évoluent très très vite et en fait l'IA, on en parle beaucoup, on en a parlé beaucoup cet après-midi déjà, hein. Moi, je voudrais peut-être parler de manière très très concrète en quoi c'est lié à notre sujet. Parce que notre sujet, il est très important dans la transformation industrielle de l'automobile, justement parce qu'il y a beaucoup de générations, donc il faut pouvoir aller vite, mais il ne faut pas que ça coûte trop cher. Et donc l'IA, il a l'intérêt de pouvoir aider l'accélération, mais aussi de pouvoir aider la réduction des coûts. Et concrètement, dans la R&D, ce qu'on observe, c'est deux applications hyper concrètes. C'est une application pour générer des idées, pour être vraiment le copilote, finalement l'apprenti qui est capable de faire beaucoup de calculs, beaucoup d'analyses très rapidement d'un technicien, d'un ingénieur, mais pour générer des idées, pour capitaliser sur l'ensemble de la connaissance. Tout à l'heure, Sabine disait que Renault a 120 ans de connaissances accumulées. En fait, c'est un énorme avantage si on sait l'utiliser. Et aujourd'hui, on savait l'utiliser quand on avait un ingénieur qui avait suffisamment d'expérience, qui avait vu beaucoup de choses et qui était en bonnes conditions pour l'utiliser. Donc l'IA peut vraiment aider là-dessus, pour générer. Et d'un autre côté, parce que l'IA, il peut y avoir des hallucinations, donc séparément, comment est-ce qu'on arrive à checker, à vérifier que ce qu'on propose, en fait, va fonctionner dans les usines, en lien avec les autres pièces, etc., etc. On a tous besoin, pour nos jalons, de pouvoir checker en permanence que tout est conforme pour la prochaine étape et pour les étapes d'après. Ça, c'est un travail qui est jamais fini, on le sait tous, mais l'IA peut vraiment aider. Donc, c'est deux applications très concrètes et qui font que, en fait, le 20 mois est possible et pas seulement pour changer la face avant. Je pense qu'on peut faire plus.
Et justement, alors vous avez évoqué le fameux SDV, hein, le Software Defined Vehicle. Ça va vraiment se développer encore plus. Sabine Le Calvo, vous êtes en train vous-même de monter cette plateforme. Alors bon, ça avance peut-être pas aussi vite que ça devrait, mais ça avance quand même. Hein, donc aujourd'hui, comment ça se passe? On en parle beaucoup, effectivement. Comment vous travaillez autour du SDV?
Alors, SDV, effectivement, hein, c'est, on va dire, un catalyseur aussi de l'accélération des cycles, des cycles de développement, enfin des cycles de renouvellement. Donc SDV pour Renault, alors c'est un projet ambitieux, hein, puisque là on change complètement notre modèle d'architecture électrique et électronique, donc forcément que c'est un gros programme. La première application, ce sera sur FlexiVan, hein, donc en 2026, hein, donc ça c'est demain, hein, on va dire d'ici un an et demi. Donc le premier véhicule, hein, donc vous pouvez le voir, FlexiVan est, je pense, exposé au salon. Donc et cette structure, cette architecture électronique, elle va avoir à la fois des avantages pour le client parce que ça va être pour lui la capacité d'avoir son véhicule très évolutif, donc une valeur résiduelle aussi qui va augmenter, hein, pour lui. Et pour nous, constructeurs, ça va être, comme je le disais, un catalyseur de l'accélération des développements parce qu'on va pouvoir upgrader en permanence, on va pouvoir réduire les coûts drastiquement en centralisant toute l'architecture. Donc c'est que du bénéfice, quoi, hein, voilà. Donc, mais c'est une révolution technologique qu'on est en train de développer, qui demande du temps, qui demande de nouveaux talents, hein. Donc, quand je disais tout à l'heure qu'on revoit nos modèles de compétences, hein, donc typiquement, on est sur un redimensionnement depuis 2-3 ans de nos compétences de manière à pouvoir se focaliser sur ces technologies-là. Voilà. Donc SDV, c'est vraiment clé et ça sera visible en 2026. Quoi.
Pour vous, justement, Christophe, ça implique aussi peut-être de revoir la façon dont vous travaillez avec les constructeurs, entre fournisseurs et constructeurs. On a beaucoup parlé déjà cet après-midi de partnership, de la façon dont tout le monde doit finalement s'impliquer dans la filière et travailler peut-être plus étroitement ensemble qu'auparavant.
Alors déjà, ça a été une grosse transformation pour Valeo, parce que nous avons misé énormément sur le SDB et nous sommes partenaires de Renault. Merci pour votre confiance. Alors, ça a commencé par une transformation. On est une vieille entreprise aussi. On a fêté nos 100 ans l'année dernière. Donc, on était une entreprise très mécanique. Aujourd'hui, on a plus de 9000 ingénieurs en logiciel. Donc, on a vraiment eu une grosse évolution. Et ces 9000-là développent globalement aujourd'hui des composants de SDV, voire des architectures SDV. Alors, pourquoi on y croit? Parce que déjà, quand vous parliez d'architecture, c'est un vrai avantage de poids, de kilomètres de câbles dans la voiture, de permettre d'upgrader la voiture beaucoup plus facilement, et puis des voitures qui vont durer 15 ans aujourd'hui. Et donc dans 15 ans, il faudra, si on ne veut pas perdre de la valeur, c'est un peu comme le téléphone, on va pouvoir faire des mises à jour, dont des mises à jour de cybersécurité. Aujourd'hui, aujourd'hui, on a des modules de cybersécurité qui ne seront pas craqués dans 15 ans. C'est un peu ambitieux de penser, donc il va falloir continuer à pouvoir faire ces mises à jour-là, de robustifier le système et puis d'amener de la fonctionnalité. Et je pense que ça va aussi beaucoup dans le cycle de la décarbonation, de la recyclabilité, du remanufacturing, etc. des véhicules. Et c'est pour ça qu'on investit beaucoup. Maintenant, c'est clair que c'est un investissement énorme. Alors pour les nouveaux constructeurs, ils démarrent directement dessus, donc c'est très facile. Pour les constructeurs plus en place, c'est beaucoup plus compliqué parce qu'ils ont déjà des architectures qui sont en place avec des composants qu'ils achètent. Enfin, ça nécessite un investissement énorme tout en gardant en même temps les anciennes plateformes. Donc, il faut imaginer la complexité pour un constructeur. Maintenant, je dirais comment pour nous, c'est forcément l'architecture de demain. Mais il va falloir que pour financer tous ces investissements-là, que globalement on se mette tous ensemble, beaucoup plus. Et j'ai bien aimé encore une remarque de M. Deméo ce matin qui parlait de 70% du contenu était chez les fournisseurs. Si tout le monde ne se met pas à faire une seule plateforme qui sera réutilisée par l'ensemble des constructeurs, puisque quelque part on peut avoir toute une partie du logiciel qui va être standard et chaque constructeur va mettre ses fonctionnalités, comme vous quand vous achetez votre téléphone avec iOS ou avec Android, vous le personnalisez et ça devient votre téléphone, même si l'operating c'est un operating system qui est standard que tout le monde a.
Alors, Michael, justement, donc ce SDV, ça va impliquer, on va dire, une nouvelle façon de penser. C'est vraiment, on l'a dit, une révolution, quoi. C'est le nouveau challenge pour l'avenir, quoi, hein.
Oui, nouveau challenge, c'est aussi finalement un mode de fonctionnement qui correspond tout à fait à l'accélération du time to market, hein. Et pour rebondir sur ce que disait Christophe, aujourd'hui, on voit quelque part comme deux SDV qui émergent de manière un peu standard avec Tesla et l'équivalent du SDV chinois, et qui est relativement homogène entre beaucoup de constructeurs chinois. Donc en Europe, il y a un vrai sujet, et c'est un vrai sujet pour pouvoir maturer rapidement. Mais c'est aussi pour ça qu'on croit beaucoup à ce genre de session, parce qu'on peut rêver du grand soir où on standardise tout. Bon, on a essayé, c'est difficile. En one-to-one, on avance, mais il y a vraiment besoin d'aller un cran plus loin, et on a besoin de se parler. Donc c'est pour ça qu'on est ici.
On arrive presque au terme de notre conférence. Est-ce que vous avez des questions pour nos intervenants? Alors voilà, une question. On va vous passer un micro, monsieur. Merci.
Oui, bonjour. Je voudrais rebondir sur le dernier point que vous avez discuté tous les quatre. C'est finalement, on est un petit marché en Europe. Donc comment faire, quelle gouvernance, comment procéder pour arriver à un moment donné à ce rêve d'avoir beaucoup plus de standards communs au sein de l'industrie automobile européenne et pas uniquement constructeur par constructeur ou équipementier par équipementier, sachant qu'en général, tout le monde est d'accord à condition que les autres adoptent son propre standard. Donc comment on fait pour sortir de ça, quoi?
Alors, je démarre. C'est une question glissante, mais c'est une question importante. En fait, je pense que, moi en tout cas, je le vois depuis hier, en fait, les mentalités commencent à bouger. Historiquement, ce que vous dites est tout à fait juste. En fait, on est quand même dans un monde où il y a traditionnellement des innovateurs qui essayent d'imposer un premier standard en conjointement entre fournisseurs et constructeurs, et après on essaye de descendre dans les segments de mass market et quelque part de créer ces innovations. Avec de temps en temps des mouvements de standardisation, mais qui arrivent un peu soit par des grands mouvements, on a connu celui de Volkswagen, on a connu celui de Toyota, etc. Mais plus dans une démarche pas à pas. Aujourd'hui, en fait, les générations avancent tellement vite et on a tellement de challenges, en fait. La voiture électrique, ça reste une voiture qui est quand même assez chère, alors que les gens veulent encore beaucoup de confort dedans. Donc, comment est-ce qu'on invente les générations suivantes? Ça reste une vraie question. Et pour ça, en fait, tout le monde se pose la question et tout le monde essaye de tester des pistes. Et je pense vraiment qu'il y a une évolution des mentalités en se disant on ne peut pas le faire complètement tout seul et on a besoin de le faire ensemble. Et ce ne sera pas tous versus un seul, ce sera sans doute des alliances. Mais voilà. Sabine, Christophe, je sais pas.
Bon, sans vouloir trop en dire, hein, mais c'est quand même un sujet compliqué. Voilà. Je suis pas de nature pessimiste, mais je pense que c'est un sujet très compliqué. Donc je pense qu'on peut arriver à faire des choses avec une prise de conscience sur le fait que l'industrie européenne doit aussi se réinventer et pour survivre, elle a besoin aussi d'aller vers un peu plus de transversalité. Hein, donc pourquoi pas standardiser sur certains sujets. On a beaucoup de réglementations, hein, donc on en a 8-10 par an hein, qu'on doit absorber. Donc à la rigueur, je pense que ce serait bien d'avoir des réglementations de ce type-là hein, pour imposer un peu des standards de conception. Donc ça, à la rigueur, ça pourrait être une opportunité. Mais ne misons pas là-dessus, hein, parce que voilà, je pense qu'il y a d'autres moyens aussi de faire aussi bien que les meilleurs, en s'organisant. La standardisation, de toute façon, en tout cas une stratégie qui est centrée sur la standardisation, que ce soit des pièces, que ce soit des systèmes, que ce soit des modules. Pour moi, c'est ce qui va permettre aux constructeurs de s'organiser et d'accélérer le time to market. Parce que ce qui est important, c'est que tout ce qui est en transversal déjà sur les véhicules soit, on va dire, développé, prêt, sur étagère, entre guillemets, de manière à être intégré dans les véhicules, dans leur cycle de développement accéléré. Donc ça, déjà, c'est à la portée de chaque constructeur à partir du moment où il s'organise et qui travaille en collaboration aussi avec des partenaires. Et ça de plus en plus tôt. Donc je pense qu'il y a des moyens de toute façon de contourner cela parce que l'Europe ne sera jamais la Chine et tant mieux. Hein. Je pense que voilà, c'est...
Juste un petit mot. Je suis un peu moins pessimiste parce que je pense qu'on n'a pas le choix. Et je pense que c'est bon pour tout le monde si on veut réduire nos coûts. Deux, on a réussi à standardiser des choses. Autosar, c'était pas gagné au début d'Autosar. Moi, je suis un vieux de l'automobile. C'était pas gagné. On a réussi. On est capable de standardiser des choses. Maintenant, c'est une volonté autant politique qu'industrielle, mais c'est un vrai sujet.
On va prendre une dernière question, je crois, parce que malheureusement, on est presque à... Allez-y.
Oui, merci pour ce talk. Une question, est-ce que vous ne voyez pas une crainte de décrochage aussi par rapport au SDV suite à la différence de puissance de calcul embarquée des véhicules chinois et débarqués dans leur centre de calcul, véhicules chinois ou Tesla?
Ça, c'est de toute façon une tendance qu'on voit aujourd'hui, mais ça pour le coup depuis longtemps. C'est juste qu'on a peut-être été un peu en pas d'escargot, mais c'est une tendance qui existe depuis longtemps, pour augmenter la puissance et pour changer le paradigme depuis une optimisation absolue des capacités de calcul embarquées dans la voiture vers une capacité de calcul plus large sur lequel on puisse permettre une évolution. Et de toute façon, un SDV qui se respecte, on va dire, alors après voyons ce que veut dire SDV, mais de toute façon, il faut pouvoir adapter le logiciel de la voiture dans le futur. Donc si on a zéro capacité, il faut être très très bon en logiciel et en algorithmie pour pouvoir favoriser plus de fonctionnalités sans avoir plus de puissance de calcul. Donc ça arrive, mais il faut être bon. Hein. Donc voilà. Et donc du coup, ça, c'est quand même une tendance qu'on a vue avec les domaines, etc. Après, ça vaut le coup de se challenger mutuellement et entre différents acteurs parce qu'il y a eu des choix différents. Et peut-être que dans la standardisation, ça peut être un bon exemple. Hein.
Eh bien, ce sera le mot de la fin. Merci beaucoup à tous les trois. On peut les applaudir. Merci à vous pour vos questions. Et je vous souhaite une très bonne soirée, encore ici, donc au Mondial de l'auto.